Welcome to the October 10th, 2017 Planning and Zoning meeting for City of Ocoee. I'd like to ask you to stand for the moment of silence and pledge of allegiance. Let's have a moment of silence for all the people that are victims in this last few months in our country, near and abroad, and around the world. Thank you. Amen. Thank you. Pledge of allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And I thank you all for that. Let's call the meeting to order right now. First thing I want to take care of before we go too far is that a long-time member of this board, Milton West, has decided to resign from our group. He says he's available if we need him anytime, so we'll take note of that. Put him down as an alternate. We thank him for his tenure, and I'm sure the commission also appreciates all the work that he's done for us.
Yeah, Milton was definitely an asset to this board for many, many years.
Yeah.
So he will, in his ventures, I hope he does okay. But he'll be missed on this board, though.
With that,
I'll do the roll
okay.
call.
Yeah, we'll do the roll call, please.
Chairman McKee,
Here.
Vice Chairman Keithler, Member Sills, Member Sills,
Here.
Member Evans is absent, excused. Member Richmond,
Here.
Member Wunderlich,
Here.
Member Henderson is absent, excused. Member Fromer.
Here.
We have a quorum.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Just like to ask you to turn your phones on silent or vibrate, if you would, please. We have a lot to get through tonight, so we appreciate your cooperation. I'm looking for consent agenda approval of the minutes of the Planning Zoning meeting for August 8th. We have not had a meeting since then, so if we can...
Motion to approve.
I'll second that.
All right, any more discussion on that? Hearing none, call for the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Hearing none, it is passed. Thank you. Moving on to old business. I know it says we have none, but I still like to ask this board to think about the question I raised a few months ago about the small scale versus large scale threshold that we have here. Presently, right now, I think it's 25,000 square feet. And I think I'd like to see it down to 10 or 15,000. I get comments from my neighbors all the time about why did that go in here and why did that go in there, and the stuff we never see. And this is no slam against the staff, because that's who really makes the decision on these, but I just think that we are representing the city of Ocoee, that maybe we should focus a little bit closer to some of those things, because there's a lot of infill going on. So I'd like to bring that up for a consensus vote, so we can send it to the commission for consideration.
And what would the new size parameter be? I think you
I
give a
think 10 to
range.
15. Mr. Rummer, can you enlighten us a little bit on this? What is, I think, correct, is 25,000 is
It's
our...
25,000, yes, for
Square
building
feet.
size.
Mhm.
Anything over that triggers large scale at the public hearings. You know, your Walgreens are at 14,000 square foot. Strip centers, you know, are generally 18,000, you know, to 8,000 to 18, 20,000. So
Yeah, that's the area that I feel is, I'm getting questioned on from my neighbors. And you may hear it too. So how'd that get in there? Why did this go there? Sorry, you didn't have nothing to say about it. So again, I'd like to ask, is there consensus? Can I ask us to move this on to the commission? Somebody propose a motion? Or I'll make the motion, I guess. Could I get a second?
I will second that.
All right, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor of sending this on to the commission for consideration, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Hearing none? Can you do that for us, Mr.?
Yes, sir.
I appreciate
carry
that.
forward.
Thank you. Going on to the next one here. We're into new business. First one is Ocoee Business Park. This will be also a public hearing. But first we'll have a presentation by Mr. Rumor.
Oops. For the record, Mike Rumor, city planner. Project before you is a preliminary site plan for Ocoee Business Park. There was one previously approved back in the early 2000s, which, and this is kind of solidifying the parcel as one. I'll touch that later. The property is on the west side of McGuire Road. This is south of the Franklin Silver Star corridor. This is railroad tracks. The property, as you see highlighted in this aerial, there's two phases of this overall development. Is already, two buildings are already developed. You have one of the ponds for the development. So there's a public road leading in. This is a preliminary site plan taking in the whole parcel, and you'll see here the buildings that they're proposing. The zoning is light industrial. It has a light industrial land use. The parcel is over 44 acres in size. The portion we're looking at is undeveloped. It proposes a light industrial flex office park consisting of 3 buildings that are a total of 646,000 plus square feet. Provides a floor area ratio of 0.33. The permitted uses would be those in the I-1, which are generally light industrial, no outside manufacturing allowed, storage of materials and stuff like that. Access to the site will be via McGuire Road, this existing public road. There is a secondary access to the site just north of that, and then an exit at the very north end adjacent to what is a City of Ocoee lift station track. The site is located within the recently adopted State Road 429 overlay. And if you recall, the overlay has 3 specific character areas. There's a gateway character area at Franklin. Then there's a business character area, which is mostly all the land around Palm Drive, where the Park at 429 development going. And we also included this parcel into that character area, even though it was not contiguous. And then the third character area was the Rest Road Village concept. The parcel is adjacent on the rear to the 429, which is really one of the emphasizing standards we were trying to create with regards to the State Road 429 overlay. This parcel specifically is located along an exit ramp and not on the main thoroughfare of Park at 420 of the State Road 429. On the south side of the parcel, this parcel I'm covering, this is the recently, you saw this as the Sunbelt rental. Now this is I-2 heavy industrial. And then we had the transitioning up to I-1. The actual whole development on the previous preliminary subdivision plan was included all of this, included this acreage on the east side of McGuire Road. It includes this parcel, which is I-1, along Franklin Street, and then a parcel over here on the other side of the 429. But we were just talking about this parcel today and these uses. The staff has reviewed, the Development Review Committee has reviewed this project. Now it's preliminary. We don't get into the technical details of stormwater assessment, pipe size, connections, but we look at how this parcel acts and how its relation to the Land Development Code and the State Road 429 overlay requirements. So it has a second layer of items we look at. There was a transportation study provided, and the transportation study did not indicate any off-site road improvements need to be made. There were a couple of questions that needed to be answered. So we don't have a finalized traffic study, but even with those answers, it wouldn't have triggered major off-site intersection improvements. The project with regards to the 429 corridor is we're trying to protect the 429, and we also want to protect the major arterial road, which is McGuire. So you'll see this building, how it is turned. We have a stormwater pond. You will not have these units have bay doors facing right onto McGuire Road. You will, however, on State Road 429. And so this is a elevation that's provided by the applicant. They may want to discuss it further, showing this is the exit lane, the exit ramp from the 429, not the center line, center drive aisles. And you can see there's a good bit of right-of-way off of the property from the aerial that will help with sightline. The project has it will provide its additional stormwater pond at this point, which will be landscaped. They will have a landscape buffer with trees, and then you'll see from this depiction the distance to the building. Now, as part of the 429 overlay, they've got to upgrade architecturally the building and kind of keep that theme around the building, like the park at 429, another project of similar type did. Oops. We're on the wrong way again. Go to the site plan. The project meets the standard by enhancing the character area's overall sense of place. The character area was designed to allow developers to know what type of development you can do, what intensity, what type of architectural look we want. We want it to be a job-generating location. That's why we spent the time and the effort with this vision for this overlay. This use certainly provides that ability to be a major employment center in the city of Ocoee. The building facade provides architectural detail. It's just not flat wall like you'll see with many of the olders. And the developer here will speak on their history and the awards they've won on their buildings. You can see on iDrive and other areas. The parking and loading docks provide for a nice visual impact for McGuire Road as you don't see the loading docks. There will be upgraded landscaping. No new streets are proposed. Under the original preliminary subdivision plan, there was a road network that came through. And so under this development, the public's responsibility is just limited to the road that was already platted. So there's no new internal roads that are to be owned and maintained by the public. This will all be maintained as part of this development. There is one aspect of the plan that is not provided. If you recall, on the Sunbelt rental, there was dedication of right-of-way up to this point. And the intention was to carry that right-of-way through to either this point or to a future right-of-way area. And so, number of deliberations with the applicant, and I'll let them speak on why that road extension does not work, is not feasible in a overall development of this type. Before this developer came in, the preliminary subdivision plan had like 9 different lots in here with a public road. And so the vision was for this road to extend and connect with that public road. But under this development scenario, it's all one complex. The Development Review Committee met on September 5th and voted to support the preliminary site plan subject to resolution of the traffic study comments. And as I said, those comments will not trigger any off-site improvements of a high value, like adding a turn lane a quarter mile away or something like that. It's just talking about the functioning of the road at the additional drive aisles and how that northern entrance, that northern exit works. So that, they have answered those comments. My consultant is reviewing that right now, and we'll have that answer by the time it goes to this, before it goes to the City Commission's first reading of ordinance. I mean, there's not, before it goes to the City Commission for approval. With that, I'll answer any questions.
All right, I got a couple.
There.
It looks great, except I'm concerned about the traffic. Those two northern entrances, are they right in, right out? And
No,
what's
this
the-
is-
I knew the traffic
This-
study is
Yeah,
still
there
under
is not a
study.
median
Right.
in this road, so they will be full. Right, yes, they will be right in and right out, and they'll be left in. So you have full access. People can make a left in.
And we're talking about
This
truck and
entrance,
trailer traffic, right? I mean,
Yes.
large
Mhm.
45-foot.
yes.
Is there anything in the city plan about enlarging this street, or what about the intersection of Plant?
Yeah, Franklin and.
Plant and
Franklin?
Franklin, yes, yes.
What
Yes.
about that? Is there
So
something in the
that
works?
is one of my big concerns, and the traffic study done by their professional, reviewed by our professional, didn't indicate a operational issue based off number of trips. However, that intersection is a state-controlled road. That is 438 Silver Star intersection. So what's going to be happening very soon, we've actually started a process with MetroPlan, is we'll be doing a corridor study, which will help to define where the future realignment of Silver Star Road, how it will happen and where it will happen. The big question is, does that realignment happen on the east side of Ocoee Apopka of this intersection or west of it? But the transportation analysis, and we do have a transportation expert here on behalf of the applicant, did not indicate that that intersection fails with the trips. These generate a tractor trailer type, a number of trips of a vehicle that doesn't generally move fast if it's stopped at the intersection, but with the count and with the level of service, it did not trigger any of those thresholds.
Was there any kind of projected count of trailer traffic
Oh, yes,
daily?
yes, there is. There's an assumed number based off of a number of engineer studies that it will generate of regular trips and those types of trips.
Yeah, you're showing a lot of loading doors on the building, so.
Yes, yes.
All right, that's my concern. Go ahead, sir.
Mr. Rumor, what agency did the traffic study?
Agency. They
Well,
hired a
company,
professional
whatever.
transportation consultant who's here.
So
And
the
then
developer
the
hired
developer.
this, and
Yes.
that was reviewed by,
The cities, we have a transportation consultant under contract.
okay.
Yes, a separate.
I've lived in District 1 for 29 years, and I've seen a lot of traffic projections for various developments, and I've come to have a rather uncertain confidence about those projections from time to time. What you said, that this project by itself would not trigger any improvements in off-site transportation facilities, I don't doubt that. In fact, I think that could possibly be said for any and every development that will ever be coming before this commission. That one by itself doesn't, but collectively, I think it does. And I have a great concern. It's tough enough to get up and down McGuire Road from Silver Star down to Colonial as things are. And there's quite a bit of development being proposed, a lot which we have already approved, that will affect that line in particular. At what point will there be something done to accommodate a increase in traffic volume?
Right, certainly. There are processes that if a road is already failing and a development comes by law, you can't make them fix that facility. The closest facility is a state-controlled facility. So we know there's a future project to change that road. That will be the time that, depending on the traffic that's generated from either all the development, future downtown or whatever, we'll be able to correct some errors. But the traffic studies take into account the development. We have a concurrency management system, which when a project's approved, those trips get loaded in. And it also assumes a percentage of traffic increase each year. So it's not just frozen in time and we're going to add these trips. It's already assuming there's going to be other new trips into that model. And it's all models that I don't, Mr. Keithler would know it better than me, but certainly. But if you have any questions, their transportation consultant can expand upon that and
Very good.
make you feel a little bit better. But yes, there's perceived transportation issues when you're on the road. I didn't make it through the light. But as
Didn't make it to the
regulators,
light.
yes, we work with models, we work with level of service, we work with level of service on the road and in the intersection. And so when this came in, I cautioned from day one. I was like, I think this project may trip that. However, it is a large square foot of buildings you're seeing. But it's potentially not as much traffic as if there were 9 or 10 lots with businesses on them. You kind of have building space, but there's not as much intensity because you don't have as many businesses like those first two. So that's what I can offer.
Thank you, sir.
Well, I appreciate your response. I still contend this is going to be a problem. You'd be lucky if you can see the light when you stop, I think.
I guess-
Shortly after you turn off 50, you'd be lucky to see the light.
I guess my questions probably will, transportation expert. I want to know when was the transportation study was done?
Okay. Yeah, it was done very
Huh?
recent with,
Very recent?
yes, yeah.
Because all the schools that's building in the back. So now it takes me, on average, if I leave my house, which is Ocoee Popcar, to Colonial, it takes me close to 30 minutes compared 3-4 years ago.
Right.
It's like, was like a 10-minute drive. So I think every day it's just increasing. So I think this is some things that we can't take lightly anymore.
Yes. And you got to remember, this type of facility, these non-residential, non-school facilities, their trips are kind of spread out through the day. Facility like this, the majority of their trips are going to be in the morning, not that peak PM that you're seeing with the schools that you have. And in morning is early. They're getting out. If it has some sort of delivery, some of them may be majority offices with just warehouse. They're not necessarily trucking facilities, but they certainly could all be trucking. But they're getting out and getting on the 429. That's why they're locating here.
Thank you, sir.
Well, I welcome the new
Applicant?
neighbors, but I just,
Yes.
really, I'm more concerned. It's going to be a problem right off the bat, so. I guess we need to talk, when you're finished, I guess we need to talk to the applicant. Any more questions of the staff at the moment? Okay, he isn't going to go far, so. If we could have the applicant come up, please, maybe you can give us some insight.
I apologize. The traffic consultant's for the next project, not for this project. The engineer that was involved, he's up to speed on the traffic count.
Okay, we're talking about the Ocoee Business Park.
Yes.
You would like to speak to us about that?
I can come up. I'm Sean Carpenter with McCraney Property.
Just
Probably
Give us your name and.
Sean
associated
Carpenter with McCraney Property.
with- Okay, thanks.
The address, 7101 President's Drive, Orlando, Florida, 32809.
Okay. Yes, sir.
So, to answer your questions regarding traffic, I'd probably have to defer to our traffic engineer, and we don't have him here today. But as Mike stated, most of the call it tenants in these facilities are trucking. It's a small office component, usually 10%, and a lot of it's warehouse space. So a lot of this is really e-commerce. As you see, retail has kind of shrunk and morphed into a smaller retail. That product has to end up somewhere, and what we've experienced is warehouse distribution is it ends up in our buildings. So typically, a lot of the distribution happens early mornings or at night or through the night, and our traffic engineer had taken that into account. So you mentioned for the peak hours, so typically you don't see the peak hour traffic.
Is this study completed now, or is it?
It's a completed study, yes.
Oh, okay. I got the impression it wasn't finished. Okay. And you're basing it on, do you have tenants for this already, so you really know what
No,
they're?
this is a speculative development, and we build it, so to speak, and they will come, and that's typically how industrial is done. A lot of these tenants are in existing spaces and are outgrowing their existing spaces, so they have to move somewhere else, is typically what we see. And a lot of times they don't plan ahead, so you build it, they will come. We build out the warehouse with speculative offices, so we may have 2,000 square foot office. That seems to help with leasing the space as well, because they have something to move into immediately, kind of like a apartment, so to speak.
All right, so you've had the traffic study done. Did the engineer give you some sort of level of service that we're going to do with the LOS? I mean, as far as trucks, what's it going to reduce the road to? I know it's not going to make it better, so. And what is it now, sir, Mr. Rumor? The LOS?
It's not failing. So
It's not an F.
it's not an F or an E. I don't have that answer.
So does your engineer project what it will be with your,
Yeah, I don't have
let's say,
that.
50% capacity?
Yeah, I don't have that in front of me either.
So it's big, we're not sure. Okay. Any questions? The applicant? Sirs? Well, we appreciate the looks of the building, and we do appreciate you coming into the city.
Yeah.
And we'll do our best, but we just can foresee a problem. I can. Been on this board long enough to know, like Mr. Wunderlich, that the traffic projections that we get, they're never right. They're always wrong. So that's where we're coming from.
Understood.
So-
Understood. Okay.
Anything else you want to tell us about the building as far
I
as?
do have, if you'd like to see more about the aesthetics of the building, we developed Class A industrial product. Really, the only thing that's comparable in this area would be the development that Blue Scope did at 429, parked at 429, but it's nothing that really you've seen in Ocoee. It's more of the newer Class A industrial product with upgrading landscaping, upgraded colors. It's really a better environment, and that's what we like to state, that we once we touch it, we improve the environment around. A lot of people will view it as, oh, it's industrial use, it's warehouse, but it's a newer use, as I mentioned. It's e-commerce, and it does provide jobs for the area. There's have been some RFPs, or response for proposals that we've responded to, that for some different companies that would provide jobs for the larger parcel, and we see those opportunities come around. There's not a lot of, call it 400,000 square foot buildings that are ready to go in the Orlando area, because traditionally the market's in the South Orlando industrial market. All of that's been developed, so these sub-markets are growing, and Ocoee is one of them that is growing as we see it.
Well, according to your renderings, you got some landscaping there, and I appreciate that personally, that you do
Yeah.
more of that as much as you can. I know you're building on basically a very clear lot, so, but we appreciate anything you can bring into the vegetation part of it.
Yes, and I've got a USB drive, if I can scroll through some of our developments. We've developed 6.6 million square feet currently, and then in the last few years, we have been selected by NAIOP, which is the Association for Commercial Industrial Properties, as the Industrial Developer of the Year, 3 of the last 5 years. And if we can scroll, is it coming up? Is it a PDF here? Stay there. As I mentioned, the president of the company, Stephen McCraney, has over 28 years of commercial real estate experience. I just mentioned Industrial Developer of the Year in 2013, 2014, 2016. Stephen's very active in the industry. And this is just representation. I believe this is in your package here. It's a colored site plan. These are the colored elevations of the building. And this is for the one of the, call it rear load buildings. So the front of the building would have a lot of glass. It would look like an office. And the rear of the building would have loading bay doors. Very typical. This gives you just a snapshot of all the projects we're currently developing in the southeast. We have projects in Florida, South Florida, Davenport, which is down in Polk County. We're also in Plant City. We're out of state. We're in Rock Hill, South Carolina, which is a suburb of Charlotte. We have another project in Charlotte, and we have even another project in Georgia. We have two projects in Georgia currently. One up in Beaufort, Georgia, a suburb of Atlanta, as well as another project in Savannah that's not even on this projection here. This is a project, Ben Oak, and this is in South Orlando Industrial Market. It's won one of the Industrial Projects of the Year awards. And we had a large user, Bowdoin Rose. They were a t-shirt company that really set off this project in Building 100. But you can see that, since that was this building here, we have Toyota in this space. We have since just backfilled this one down here, which is a tire company. And we also have, really, in this side of town, we have convention companies with Freeman Expositions. It's a 450,000 square foot building, and they're the largest exhibitor at Orange County. They are really one of the largest exhibitors across the country. They're a $2 billion private company. And off of that, Shepherd is another exhibiting company. Blue Line is a food service. It's a cold service arm of Little Caesars. So they move all the cheese and pizza dough. And we actually have a tenant here called Wesco, which is an electrical distributor. So those are the types of tenants that we anticipate would come to Ocoee as well. Typical type tenants here. This is a project down in South Florida. This is 19 Business Park. This is fully occupied. As you can see, very colorful, lots of landscaping, enhanced landscaping. Similar project down in West Palm Beach is Turnpike Business Park, same color schemes. You'll see this, we call it the burnt orange, is very common on all of our projects. Leasing, this is over 50%. This was just completed earlier this year. This is another project in Plant City, Florida. This is under construction. Buildings are just finishing. Very similar types of buildings. They're rear load buildings where the dock doors are on the back of the building. Got a lot of glass in the front. And this is in Plant City, just down from the big Publix distribution center and the Amazon distribution center on County Line Road. This is a shot from above County Line. We have many different options in this project. We built the first two buildings here, and we have options to build some of the bigger buildings as well. This is Park 27. This is in Polk County, right off of 27 and I-4. One of the big users that we have in here is a company called CTDI. They are a very large company that fixes the computer, not the computer, but the cable set-top boxes, and this is a facility for Comcast. So when you have a problem with your set-top box or remote and send it back to Comcast, it actually goes to CTDI and they process the facility. But this is a big job generating. Parking requirement for this was 400 parking spaces, so they have shifts where they may have 200 people working in this 300,000 square feet facility at one time. So those are the types of jobs that the larger facility can bring, technical type jobs. Park 27 is a two-building development that we've processed. This other building is also fully leased, and this project was completed last year. This is 27 Logistics. This is another project in Polk County just coming out of the ground. But as you can see, the theme is, we build high-quality, Class A, colorful, projects and try and touch the environment and make it a better place to live and work and for distribution. Logistics 77, this is up in, it's a 500,000 square foot project in Rock Hill, South Carolina, taking the same color schemes up to North Carolina as well. It's currently under construction. And this is under contract to develop near the airport in Charlotte, North Carolina. And this gets into our team as well.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions? Yeah, you got some nice projects. Are they all about the same size? Because this is like 650,000 square feet. Those are some bigger, some smaller.
It varies. We like to have buildings that can really, and it gets to do with the depth of the buildings, the tenant sizes. You may have, we're trying to track 20,000 to 30,000 square foot tenants. That's a different building due to, you need the number of bay doors on the rear. So it's a shallower building, call it shallow bay, and the loading docks are on the rear. But we have some of the larger, call it tenants or users that require a cross dock where loading bays are on both sides. What we try to do is vary the depths on the buildings, throw it on the rear load product, and on the cross docks, those are buildings that really is a requirement for that user. They need doors on both sides.
At any rate, it looks like there's going to be a lot of traffic to me, so as I can tell. It's good that you're filling them up quick. That's good. Any questions from the board? All right, thank you. Appreciate it. Yes, sir?
Let me add, I'm Mark Smiley, I'm the site engineer for the consultant.
Okay.
I'm in Jupiter, Florida, 1928, Commerce Lane, Suite 2, 33458. The traffic study did come in today, and I just wanted to reinforce that it does say that the level of service, it won't change the level of service of the roadways.
Really?
And that all the intersections continue to meet the acceptable levels of level of service per the Florida statutes. So I do understand the concern, what you're saying, but that the documents do meet the codes out there and the laws, and
Okay.
wanted to reinforce that to you.
Sir?
Because that did come in today.
Yeah. Mr. Rumor, in your memory, have you ever seen a traffic study come in and say that there's a problem and that it needs,
Yes, yeah, we had a
how
number.
frequently, how recently?
The projects that were developed or approved prior to the downturn in the economy. Now, the roads that they were affecting were Highway 50 or McGuire South that we widened. And they had actually either to do improvements or there's a process where they can make a mitigation payment. The arbors at Crown Point PUD traffic study indicated an operational issue at Fuller's Cross Road and Ocoee Popka Road. And through the proportionate share ordinance we have, their proportionate share to fix that intersection was $34,000. So now, law changed in 2011 that if a thing is already failing, if an intersection of road is already failing, you can't make someone add on to that and fix that problem. But we didn't have that situation with this traffic study where I was telling you, the road's already failing and they're exasperating it, but there's nothing we can do.
And you said our consultants agreed with this traffic study?
Yes. And you got to remember, we long-range plan for the roads system, and we do that via land use. So this land use has been light industrial. If they were asking to change the land use from agricultural to light industrial, that's certainly a comment that's going to come up. You've got to show you're going from different types of trips. This land use is light industrial. We assume in our background trips, and we've planned for roads widening of McGuire due to the land uses in the area. So, just offer that to you.
Thank you.
All right. Any more questions? Any more additional information? That's it. I think we're done with you,
Okay.
gentlemen, thank you.
Thank you.
Mike, any
Yeah.
final comments from you on this?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. All right, let me bring it back to the board. Any discussion?
Public hearing?
Public hearing. Public hearing.
Public hearings, was there a
Oh, we
public
got to open the public hearing, you're right. Well, I just wonder if you guys had anything you want to. Okay, we'll open the public hearing now. Anyone would like to speak on this subject? Please come forward, name and address at the public microphone, and be sure to fill out a form before you leave. No one wants to speak to the public hearing about this issue? All right, we'll close the public hearing then. Thank you. All right, I'll bring it back to the board. Any discussion? I guess I'm the only one that's really concerned about the traffic when Mr. Wonderland, but I guess
You
we'll,
also need to remember that.
we have the experts that say it's
Yeah.
okay.
I mean, I
Yes.
am as well. I'm very concerned about the traffic because last transportation study was done full across in Ocoee, Popka. So now if you travel during peak hours, just expecting 15, 20-minute delay. I do have an issues with the transportation studies. And to me, I can't seem to validate any recent traffic studies.
Well, the big question is, as Mr. Rumor was explaining, is that the state is working on the I think it's 428, is it? 438.
438.
Expansion of State Road and what we call Silver Star. So that is kind of a question that hangs in the air, and that's definitely going to affect that intersection. No way around it. And it's not only the everyday traffic. When this project is done, there'll be the construction period. So at this point, I guess we can just propose a motion
And
to accept.
don't forget, they may not have a traffic improvement. As with any new development, we do have impact fees in the city of Ocoee, and 646,000 square feet at, I can't remember the rate for the light industrial, between 2,000 and 4,000 a square foot. So there's going to be close to $1 million in impact fees, road impact fees that are only used for roads. So they will pay their fair share, per se, with impact fees as well. Just
Yeah,
don't
usually
forget about
we have
those.
it listed in our documents, but I don't see anything on it.
Okay.
Okay, with that, I'll bring it to the commission for a motion.
Mr.
Hey, Mr.
Chairman, I
Chairman.
would move that we recommend approval for the annexation and rezoning of this.
This is
am I-
preliminary site plan. This is a preliminary site.
Preliminary site
I'm
plan.
sorry, thank you.
That's the next one.
Parcel numbers
LS,
OAL, it's here somewhere.
it's up on top,
I'm on the wrong page.
on the first page.
Excuse me.
I think it's on-
I'll get my motion out here eventually. Too much traffic in my head. For project LS 2017009,
Okay,
recommend the approval of preliminary site plan for Ocoee Business Park.
Second?
okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the issue? I'm not sure how we can relay our concerns to the commission, other than maybe call them ourselves and ask them to think
Well,
about it.
this is pretty much preliminary.
Yeah.
The final will come back to this board later on, right?
Yes,
So this is really preliminary. It's a preliminary
Yes.
site plan.
Good,
But
good comment. You will see this unless we raise the large-scale site plan to over 600,000 square feet, which we won't do. But you will see this in the final site plan as well.
There's a little comedy there, did you miss that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess we'll,
But the minutes will have, I put the P and Z
Okay.
motion and the major topics discussed, and there was really just one. But so that will be relayed in the minutes that go in the staff report to the city
just want our
commission.
concerns expressed to
Yes.
the commission so they can evaluate it. All right. Ready, I'll call the question. All those in favor of this motion? Say
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Hearing none, it's accepted. Thank you. Thank you, sirs, for your cooperation with Mike and the staff. We do appreciate it, we really do.
Thank you.
Next one on board is the Inspiration PUD. Mr.
Okay,
Rummer.
again, for the record, Mike Rummer, city planner. The project is the Inspiration PUD. This is an annexation and rezoning to PUD, Plan Unit Development. There's sort of three elements to this project. There is a annexation of a parcel. There's two parcels. One of them still in unincorporated Orange County. That would be, my mouse wants to work. I gotta get closer here. This parcel right here is still in unincorporated Orange County, so it's an annexation of one parcel. This parcel's in the city. It's rezoning. Both parcels are giving initial on half of it, but giving it a PUD Plan Unit Development zoning. And then with that zoning is a PUD land use plan. So that PUD is setting up the zoning district, and that is relayed on the PUD land use plan document and an associated development agreement. Project is on the south side of the Florida's Turnpike, west side of McGuire Road. Some points of interest. There we go. The property is on the south side of the Turnpike and west side of McGuire Road. McGuire Road at this point along the frontage on McGuire Road is on the downside of the ramp going over the Turnpike. You have Tommen Boulevard and a future road extension leading up to their project, which will be a part of the PUD. So it's this parcel. It does not have frontage on Tommen Boulevard. There's a separate development to the west, which has an existing daycare. With regards to the annexation aspect of this parcel that you see in gray, it is surrounded by the city of Ocoee. It is eligible for annexation, for voluntary annexation as this is applied for. The surrounding zoning is C3 commercial. You do have a PUD on the east side of McGuire Road. The future land use in our joint planning area, future land use designation with Orange County is commercial for this parcel, for these parcels. The land use designation of commercial and by our comprehensive plan allows for a mixed use development, allows for forms of medium and high density development under certain economic conditions in a mixed use development PUD format. The project as proposed, I think I had the plan here, is a mixture of townhomes, 90 units, and then you have retail and office with pedestrian connections, and it functions as one project. This is the sort of meeting the criteria, the comp plan for like a mixed-use development. This would be the fourth of its type in the city if it's approved. We have the first development that developed under this sort of criteria called mixed use, allowing residential and commercial, is the development where the 2J shopping center is, and you have townhomes behind it and single-family homes, transitioning from there. The second one was a Park Place. This was commercial land use in a development which has townhomes, and in this commercial land use, they set out 2.5 acres for commercial, and then they had the multifamily. Then we had the Arbors development up on West Road, where we now presently have the apartments in a charter school. That initially came in as a PUD with medium and high density with commercial in the front. The commercial ended up coming in as a special exception for a charter school. And so what you have is a proposal to develop a PUD to allow this density to come in. If it was just office and retail, it would be given a C3 zoning, which is comparable to the area, but with the land use, they can approach this sort of mixed-use development pattern. There is overall 16.27 acres in size, 2 parcels, one of which needs to be annexed.
Which parcel again, please?
Okay, primarily where the townhomes are, the 90 townhomes, that would be the
That's the parcel
parcel
to be annexed.
to be
first.
annexed.
Okay.
The development plan is for 90 townhome units. There are 4 retail buildings, one of which is proposed as a preschool up at the top north end of this commercial tract, with their outside play area behind it. You have then a series of buildings which would have either, building 2 is 12,600 square foot of office retail. Building number 3, not building 33, that was supposed to be the number sign, 2-story office retail with 42,350 square foot. And then building 4 is this sort of little, around 2,500 square foot, which fronts or backs into a little park area. So the access to the site is via this road that runs through another piece of property. There is a development agreement. This is the Heller property. There is an agreement where the road is built not by the Heller development, but they dedicate the road. They do get rights to put stormwater into this pond. And this road will be the access point to this future development.
Who's building that? Who will be building that access?
Based on this project, it will be this
Oh, the
project.
project?
Yes.
Okay.
The plan provides for, and the plan got out of sequence, but will provide, you don't see this here, this was a comment at the DRC, it might have made it in there. There will be a emergency exit. Yeah, here it is. Emergency exit out to McGuire Road. If the lay of the land for this project is, there used to be a paper right-of-way here, used to be a right-of-way, and it was vacated, and when all of this development was put in, they built the new Tomlin Road segment. So this property doesn't have frontage on a public road. Part of creating the approval of some developments was vacating this right-of-way. You cannot physically enter the property from McGuire. It would not be safe with the downhill, but we're providing an emergency access. So if for some reason, oops, wrong way, go back up. If you had a fire in one of these units and there was a need, you could not get out. You could safely evac people out of this emergency exit. It'll be decorative fence and gate, and you won't know it, but they'll be able to exit out that way. So that provision was made for the fire marshal. The plan you see is the PUD land use plan. It will have site data and open space, and it'll have the zoning and uses that go with the commercial and retail office side. And with the setbacks and the buffering, you'll see they do meet the distance setback from the turnpike for building. They meet the building setback. They have an elevation they'll show you when the applicant comes up, but the area around the townhomes is, this area is all stormwater retention. They do have in the proposed townhome development a amenity center.
It shows that as wet. Is that what the intention is?
That's the intention, yeah, and you'll see it on their elevation.
Okay.
And then you can see area over here for additional parking. They have some parking at the amenity center, and they have some additional parking in this location. So with regards to this project, there's sort of the 3 elements I said. The annexation meets the criteria. The rezoning, they want to rezone it to plan unit development in order to get a specific development program. And they've showed you that on the plan. You can do some PUD, you can do a PUD plan just as a bubble. We want residential here, office, retail here. We do have the benefit of having a plan, a land use plan that you see and will be approved with the project. And when you see it in the preliminary site subdivision plan, will be required to look as it was adopted, or they will be revising the PUD rezoning if they change it at preliminary. The project is proposing, and this was an early rendition. We have been working on this project for a good year plus. I wanted to show this aerial. This building is no longer no longer on the site. This building was multi-stories and had apartment condos, but it does not. It's retail. This building is no longer on the site plan, but you can see a nice aerial view of the proposed development.
What's in lieu of Building 3
with
then?
the road. I'm sorry, what's that?
What's in lieu of that Building 3? Is that?
It's the building used to sit here, so they've kind of done this park area and this little little retail area that benefits it. So, with regards to the type of construction of this development, what the applicant is proposing is a modern architecture,
Yeah, I see.
or based off of some meetings we've had, they might be looking at a sort of modern, a twist on the Mediterranean. Now, with regards to the South McGuire area, with the projects we've approved, Casa Murillo Apartments, Park Place Apartments, and retail, the retail on Moore Road in McGuire, the assisted living facility that's constructed. The assumption or the directive from staff, the city, and the residents kind of always assumed we were going to maintain that Mediterranean theme. Mm-hmm. This project does not maintain it. That has been that was some of the discussion we've been having before the project was submitted, through a technical staff review meeting, through a DRC meeting. And they're providing elevations of what some of these commercial buildings will look like, options they have for the townhomes to make the 90 townhomes that are proposed. You can see by the Development Review Committee, they're reviewing a PD plan, and they're looking at land development code. And land development code just says the architecture must be cohesive. So what they did in their recommendation is they kind of said, we're going to take that architectural element out. We don't have a code that says it has to be any type of architecture, specific architecture. So they took that item out. They also, the traffic study that you guys also love and hold dear to you, shows let me find it on the aerial. With this future road and having the daycare and the single family element, they have a peak AM and PM similar times where the commercials spread throughout the day, that it just about trips the threshold for needing a signal at this, but really the signal will only be warranted during those peak hours. So we are looking at that further before we make a final on the city side determination of whether a signal is required or not, or
Tomlin
proportionate
Road?
share.
At Tomlin Road in this extension?
At this future road, it's a quarter mile away from the intersection of McGuire and Tomlin. So at this location, they will be providing a right turn decel lane in, and the ability, it's open so that it's a full intersection. You do have this subdivision is gated, so the DRC took that comment. We're still working on it. The applicant has applied for school concurrency. They're rezoning the property with residential units, so they have to pass the capacity enhancement study, but from the school board. And they will have to have an agreement with the school board if they fail any of the level of service with the school board, they'll have to mitigate. We expect they'll fail a couple of desks, either elementary school or middle school. So we have some time. It has to go to a school board meeting before it can move forward to the city commission. So we have some time. I felt comfortable bringing it to the Planning and Zoning Commission, saying that there may be a need for a light here or a proportionate share towards a light. We're looking at that further.
Did you say there's something about a daycare, or is this a?
This is a
elementary
gated
school?
subdivision across the road, but they have full access, so.
Not gated, but did you say this is a daycare?
Oh, yes,
Is
there's a
daycare?
preschool daycare.
In addition
this-
to the school?
No, this here is a preschool.
Oh, okay.
This building, its intended use is a preschool.
And they got to clear that through the Orange County school system?
No, generating on a rezone, when you create new
Oh.
units, these 90 townhomes will be
Okay.
tested.
So is this preschool, is it projected to have the same capacity as the projected population disbursement in the townhomes?
Oh, I don't know that answer. I don't know that. If that's the
That way
applicant.
people wouldn't have to leave the,
That's
make that-
generally the idea with a mixed-use development like this. You're giving residents, people the opportunity to be able to work, play, and not have to be automobile-oriented. They have those services, within walking distance. So the Development Review Committee took out that traffic issue. We haven't finalized it, and that architectural issue. And with that, that'll end my presentation. If you have any
comments?
Further
Questions,
comments?
you guys?
Further
Over
questions?
here? We'll give you the first shot. Anything? Jim?
Mike, all the traffic will come from out of this project on the Tomlin
All
Road,
of it will
correct?
go on the Tomlin,
And
yes.
then exit eastbound to McGuire Road, or,
Or go, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
go
Okay.
the other way.
They'll-
okay, that's what, thank you.
Sir, anything?
I also see a STEM school. Is it, what's
That's
the,
what we're talking about.
that's what we're talking about? It's
Well,
the
the
daycare and-
the daycare is going to be, they're proposing, that it's going to be, the operator will be STEM themed, yes.
Okay, so,
Yes.
that's my questions.
Mr. Wonder?
Thank you. I really like the idea of having a traffic signal at that future intersection. I've been down that road several times, different times a day, and I don't see how they could get out there if they are going to be eastbound on Common. But in general, this is only the first step. Is that correct, Mr. Roomer? We'd still go through preliminary site planning and so forth?
Yes, what's different from the project before it is the project before was a straight zone, I-1. There's criteria in the Land Development Code. This one, this project under PUD, we're creating the zoning designation. We're creating some of the requirements with the project. Now, they could propose to say not meet the building distance from the turnpike, and then you would say, okay, well, how are you going to mitigate that? But they're proposing to meet that building setback. So this plan is setting up the setbacks, the buffering, the open space, the townhomes development, and how it mixes together that might not fit under a normal code. As we know, this is a commercial land use and a commercial zoning. So our commercial code doesn't have criteria for townhomes. So that's why they do this plan unit development. You can make your zoning district. So yes, we do have the time to say, maybe this project needs A and B added to it, because we don't have something to look at in the code. But we can look at our commercial, we can look at our residential and our multifamily and say it should meet these aspects, but they can also propose, or we can come up with additional at this time. It is
Thank you.
appropriate.
All right, let me bring to the board's attention that we are looking at an annexation separately, then a rezoning, and we'll be voting on each one of those. As far as the PUD land use, that's just information, right? So the item that we're looking at first is the AX 081764, the annexation. So that's what we're primarily concerned with. And I guess we'll be doing a public hearing on each one of these?
Yes, and the applicant's here and has a presentation, and their traffic expert is here.
Yeah, so before we do that, we will invite the applicant up to the podium to explain more in detail of these various questions.
Oh, before we do it, may I add
Sure.
something? I noticed in the property, and I want to pair it back what I've heard earlier about the traffic. You have Westbrook Elementary right there at that intersection at 8:30 and 3:30 in the afternoon, traffic's backed up.
There's a light there, right?
All four directions. Yes, it is. And I'm just concerned that the traffic's going to become even more problematic with 90 units. But other than the traffic concerns, I noticed there's no sound attenuation wall around the turnpike. I didn't know if that was just for aesthetics or cost or what the reason was, but my concern is I'm not a big fan of condos or apartments. I like single-family homes, and my concern is 10 years down the road, people driving down values in that area because it's too noisy. So can you address the sound attenuation wall?
Yeah, and the walls were put up within the last 11 years since I've been here. They have put some sound attenuation wall. That is the Turnpike Authority
Okay.
putting those up.
I just didn't see
So,
anything in this.
right,
I see a
right.
little wall.
You're correct,
around
yes,
that
I was just saying
property.
yes. It's not,
But I do very much like the modern appearance and the landscape and the setback with the water and the trees. It looks great.
and you're a resident down in that area.
Let me bring to your attention the staff recommendations, item C. It says the location of fee simple townhomes adjacent to the Florida Turnpike without sound attenuation walls. This is what the staff is recommending. So,
Okay, so the
I'm not recommending that it doesn't have sound
no,
attenuation.
but I'm recommending we're not going to pay for it.
Oh,
That's what I'm
That's right.
recommending.
this
Because
is-
that could happen later on. That was my argument against Park Place. And I can see those people clamoring because it's supposed to be luxury apartments or luxury condos. So, okay, sir, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Name and
Gentlemen, good
affiliation.
evening. My name's Brad Luzak. I'm an attorney in Winter Park with the law firm of White and Luzak. My address is 655 West Morse
I got you
Boulevard, Winter Park 32789. This is the first time I've had the pleasure of appearing before this commission. My client, the applicant, has assembled a very experienced and talented team of development professionals to come up with this project. The team members are present this evening. The team members, who you'll be hearing from many of them, include Ray Veloso from Diplomat Development Group. Mr. Veloso is a general contractor with many years of experience in Central Florida. He's also the CEO of Yellow Rock Construction. He'll be able to answer any questions about the project you may have more on the business end, but he's unlikely to speak otherwise. We also have Ray Braddock from PKA Orlando, Inc. Mr. Braddock and PKA are engineering and land development professionals from Maitland. Some of y'all may know Mr. Braddock from his decades as the CEO of Boyer Singleton and later Dewberry, who acquired him. Boyer Singleton was a primarily surveying and development firm here in Central Florida. We also have with us Bob Hahn from the firm of Hahn and Hahn Team, Inc. Hahn and Hahn's a multidisciplinary boutique land planning and development firm. Like each of you, Bob too serves his local community by sitting on the Planning and Zoning Commission in Winter Park. We also have, I'm sure you'll be excited to hear, Muhammad Abdallah, who is a leading traffic engineer from Traffic and Mobility Consultants. He's going to answer all your questions about traffic, and I will answer none of them. In your package this evening, staff had 3 comments. Those comments dealt with, first, aesthetics, second, traffic, appears to be a popular topic around here, and then thirdly, the sound attenuation walls. Mr. Braddock and Mr. Hahn will each make portions of this presentation, and I would ask that you listen to those, and I think all of your questions will be answered. And then finally, Mr. Abdullah will be talking to you about traffic, and I'm sure he's looking forward to that as much as y'all are looking forward to it. After these gentlemen have spoken, I'll be back to visit with you hopefully very briefly, and we'll wrap it up. Without any more ado from me, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Braddock.
Okay, sir. Your name, address, and affiliation, please.
Good evening. My name is Ray Braddock. I'm with a firm called PKA Orlando. I'm a development consultant firm. It's my second career after owning a consulting engineering firm for 42 and a half years. So as Brad has said, it was Boyer Singleton and Associates, and I have processed probably 15 or 20 projects through the city of Ocoee, Westmere, some of the ones that in this area. Some of the ones north on Clark Road, we've done those, and I know Dewberry is still currently doing projects in the city. First of all, I'd like to thank the staff. Like Mike said, we've been working on this project for months and months and months. It's been an iterative process of them providing information to us going back, reworking the plan, taking into consideration all the current city codes. Like Mike had said, the plan that we have in front of you now asks for no waivers or variances from current city code. We wanted to produce a plan that not only met the objective of our client, but also met all the criteria that are currently in the city land development code. So as you see in front of you, this is a little colored added to the plan to more differentiate the water from the actual development. I'll talk first about the townhome side. The townhome side is a high-end townhome. Product is anticipated to sell in excess of $350,000 a unit. They are fee-owned, no short-term rental or anything like that. It's intended for owner occupancy. And the whole concept of the plan was we want to develop as close to a live, work, enjoy life development as we could. We've added in that packet that you see, we've added several other different architectural styles. And Mr. Veloso, after our last DRC meeting, we've decided that what we ought to do is try to mix product types in there, have some of the modern, have some maybe more traditional architectural styles, so that it does have a little mix in it rather than being all totally modern design. So we'll work with the staff and figure out the distribution of that as we move forward in the project. The townhome side has a full clubhouse with pool. It's high end. It's going to have towel service so that when you come to the pool, there'll be towels there. It's designed to be very upscale. The units themselves are high tech, all with high-speed internet, all with all the new bells and whistles and technology. In fact, Bob Hahn, who was working with me on this, he's going to go over a social media campaign that we actually did to develop what we think the market is out there. There's some very interesting information that he'll provide for you in that. On the mixed-use side, the school is going to be a STEM school, and I'm sure y'all have heard that acronym: Science, Technology, Engineering, and Math. Currently, there are only 2 in Central Florida. One now in Oviedo, which is fully operational. There's one now being constructed in Lake Nona that will very shortly open, and then this will be the third that will be in Central Florida. It's a very interesting concept. When you have time, there's some websites you can go to and actually see what they do with these children. They're 2 to 6. These children are exposed to very advanced concepts. They work with science. They do science projects. It's not your typical preschool where they go in and color pictures and more of a babysitting operation. This is early learning for these young kids. They work with tools. They do little engineering projects. They do mathematics things. And it's all designed to get these kids a head start when they go on into the public school or private school system. The rest of the buildings that are on that side are designed for small entrepreneurial people who could very easily work or live in the townhomes, have a business where they could walk to or ride their bicycle or do whatever. It'll have professional services, architects, engineers, attorneys, all those types of uses that would be very conducive to the live work. It'll have some small retail things in it, maybe a coffee shop, maybe a little breakfast place, you know, those kinds of things. Then you'll have the normal offices for other professional type people or design people. I could very easily see an interior design company go in there, maybe a wife or something that wants to have a business close to her home. And it's been a proven model. Mr. Veloso has several projects like this right now, and they're currently 98 to 100% occupancy. And they're very highly desired. They're very modern inside. They're space effective so that you don't have extra square footage, so your rents are something that are affordable. The high-speed internet, the lighting, the air conditioning, everything is high-tech so that actual operating costs for these facilities are reduced, which makes it a lot easier for an entrepreneur to be able to have his business and be successful. The whole concept is very interesting. I'm excited with it. In my career, I've not been able to be involved with something as really interesting as this is. We've done a lot of mixed-use projects, but they've been traditional mixed-use projects where it might be a town center or a typical mixed-use residential with single-family, multifamily, townhomes, that type of thing. This is something that I think is going to be different for Ocoee. It's going to be something that's going to be cutting edge, which is something I think is going to be an asset to the community. And it's going to be a good tax base for the community, too. So with that, I'll turn it over to Bob, and then I'll be available for any questions.
Thank you. Thank you. Name, address, affiliation, please.
Yes, be happy to. It's Bob Hahn with the planning firm Hahn & Hahn team. The address is 1181 Via Salerno, Winter Park, Florida, 32789. This summer, we had engaged the services of a gentleman. His name is Brian Weber. You're encouraged to, check him out and his qualifications. He's a Maitland-based market research firm. He has over 20 years of experience in the field of public engagement. And we had asked Brian to do for us, basically, to do a very objective, data-driven study of what some of the emerging lifestyle choices and trends are within the city of Ocoee. So our interest in doing this study was to be able to align what those emerging lifestyle trends are with the proposed plan that you've seen and that Ray Braddock has been explaining to you, so that the plan was just not simply a arbitrary decision on the part of the developer to impose something within a community. And I think you'll find that of interest. So Brian went about his work to focus, and you have, by the way, in the back of your packet, you have the actual copy of the study. So Brian's methodology was to go about focusing on people who live in, as the title says, who live and work within about 5 miles of the Inspiration property. And he used a couple, varieties. He's very adept at social media and used Facebook ads and Instagram ads, I think with a incentive of having a $100 Starbucks coffee coupon if you responded to the survey. And the results are very interesting, and I'd like to take just a couple of minutes and go through those results. When asked what cities do you most often visit to shop and go to restaurants, you'll see that Ocoee is losing out on this entire market share. You take Winter Garden, you take Dr. Phillips, you take Winter Park, Metro West, and Windermere, and they are capturing the total market share of this particular behavior and economics that's frankly drifting out of your city limits. When asked about the features that are attractive to people moving into a new housing community, walkability to restaurants was resoundingly high. Over 50% of the respondents said they wanted to be able, at the end of the day, to go to a restaurant. I can attest to that. I live very close to Park Avenue. It's one of the benefits of living in the city of Winter Park, is being able to have that accessibility to restaurants. Other features that were important were energy efficiency, high-speed internet, gated security, and walking paths, all elements of that particular plan that's above you and that's being presented this evening. Here was the interesting question, because as Mike has indicated, we've been really kind of jockeying back and forth on this whole issue of architecture. When asked which architecture do you prefer, modern or traditional, it was frankly split right down the middle. We found that 51% of the respondents liked traditional architecture and 49% liked modern. As Mr. Fromer indicated, there is genuinely an appeal to this sort of contemporary, however you want to brand it, contemporary sort of modern look. It's not to say that all the residents in the community favor that, and I can also attest as a resident of Winter Park that I live very close to a redevelopment area, and all the homes that are being in there, there's almost a pattern of development that's a mix of modern and traditional homes that's coming into that community. And so again, our proposal in the plan has been to mix and diverse what that architectural mix is. Another question is when asked in terms of having more cutting edge and innovative building design, building that employs, again, that catchword sustainable architecture, 66% of the residents said yes, they wanted to see it. Finally, when asked, what would you like to have closer to Ocoee? And the response was more unique restaurants, more unique shops, and niche businesses. And I think the operative word in that response is unique, which is, I think, the prevailing theme of what it is that we're proposing to you this evening in the Inspiration community. This is definitely not something that you all have seen or you see a lot of, but it is very unique, and we believe, again, it's supported by the local market community. As part of the public engagement process, in addition to doing this market research, we also had a very successful meeting with the Homeowners Association, with the Windermere Groves Homeowners Association. And actually, the timing on that meeting was July the 11th, and we had already had the results of the lifestyle survey, and we were able to share some of those results with the residents, and they were frankly astoundingly supportive of the project. I'm going to now turn the presentation over to Mohammed, who's going to address traffic.
Name, address, and affiliation, please.
Good evening, Commissioners. Mohammed Abdallah, Traffic and Mobility Consultants, 3101 McGuire Boulevard, Orlando 32803. I'm a professional engineer registered in the state, and I'm also a certified professional traffic operations engineer. I've been on the hot seat here of traffic engineering for about a little more than 20 years. As you heard, we prepared a traffic study for the project, looking at the development, the impacts on the surrounding transportation network. And I'm going to shock you here. We found that, everything at build-out will be operating within the adopted levels of service of the city. Now, you might say to yourself, well, how can that be? There's traffic during the rush hour. Well, there is obviously traffic during the rush hour. However, the city has adopted a level of service that is D or E for the roadway network. And the reason for that is transportation infrastructure is quite expensive, and obviously We want to bring it to the brink of capacity before we start doing anything with it. So that experience of driving during the rush hour and seeing traffic, that's not accidental. That's intentional. I mean, roads cost millions and millions of dollars, and we certainly don't want them to not be used. That would be a waste of taxpayer money. So just to kind of address some of the conversation that I heard earlier, that's why there's maybe that perceived disconnect between what we say is acceptable and what you might feel as a driver is acceptable. To address the issue of the access and the intersection, as you heard Mike say, there's been discussion about a signal there. What we found, signals are regulated by the Federal Highway Administration, and there's a manual on uniform traffic control devices that basically establishes a number of warrants or situations that would warrant a traffic signal. We don't see any of those conditions here at this point. So with this development, we don't believe any of those warrants would be met. So this signal would not, in our opinion, be warranted. However, we also looked at the number of lanes at the driveway, and we found that the volumes fall just short of requiring a right turn lane. If you're heading westbound on Tallman, a right turn deceleration lane would not be necessarily warranted by the volumes. However, we are, for the sake of safety and good operations, going to go ahead and provide that turn lane. So that's as far as that access goes, we do project it will operate adequately without a signal. And if there's if there's delay, that delay is on the exiting side of the project. But again, we're not projecting any extensive delay in that. Other than that, I'd be happy to answer any questions or turn it back over to.
Oh, sure, run away.
Yeah.
I think we got some questions here for
Yep,
the traffic engineer. Jim?
I just can't see adding 287 parking spaces. You know, you're going to have that many cars or more. That's just at the school. And then the other condos and the townhomes, there's got to be a traffic issue there at Tomlin Road coming out of this problem. I just can't see how they can. It won't create a traffic situation.
Well, it's if you look at the mix of uses, not everything happens all at once. Here, there's quite a bit of synergy between the different uses that are on the site, and there's a time shift between when each one of these uses peaks. So you have the commercial, the office, the school, the residential, all of them peak at a little bit different times. And so not everything's happening on top of each other. It's done in such a way that there will always be traffic at that driveway. It just won't all happen all at once.
What is the LOS on Tomlin?
Tallman,
Currently.
I believe we're projecting.
No, what is it currently?
Oh, currently, give me a second, we'll get there. Level service C.
C, and you project it to stay at C, or are you
We
projecting
projected
it to?
at build out with the background growth to remain at C, yes. It's operating at roughly a little bit less than half its capacity.
What's the capacity? 24,000?
Tallman is 16, well, we speak in peak hour. So in peak hour, it's 1,600 cars. And we're projecting about a little more than 700 in the peak hour.
In addition to the 16?
No. The maximum it can carry by your standards is 1,600 cars in the hour. And we're projecting the total to be carried is about 700.
700?
Correct.
Less than half.
And today it's a little bit under 600.
Okay. Anything else, Jim?
Mr. Chairman, I have one question.
Sure.
I'm not sure it's for the traffic engineer, but will each townhouse have one or two car garages?
Two-car garage and 2 parking spaces outside the garage.
Very good. Parking spaces long enough to accommodate a vehicle? I've seen some that don't.
Front setback will be adequate to make sure you have parking outside the garage.
So they will not obstruct the sidewalks. Thank you very much. Will on-street parking be allowed?
We're not anticipating on-street parking, but it's very difficult with a townhouse project to have on-street parking.
I was thinking of guests beyond 2 visitors per unit.
We've added some guest spaces.
I saw a few,
Oh,
okay.
okay, you got 5.
Thank you very much.
Sir?
I guess for me to understand the formula that traffic engineer utilize, I guess I'll probably have to do some schooling because I can't seem to get this formula like he just mentioned. And I do understand you stated not every vehicle will move at the same time. What happens if they do? What if? I know in research we always have what if.
No, and absolutely. I mean, we can say what if, but what we base our science on, sir, is hundreds and thousands of studies at similar land uses that have been done across here and across the nation that basically tell us this type of use will generally generate this kind of traffic. Is it exact? Sure, it's not. But again, I've been doing this for a long time, and we do get pretty close. To say, what if something happens and everyone has to rush out and at the same time? That's while plausible, not something we typically design for.
So what's your batting average on all those projects you've done? Anywhere near 500 yet? Or?
It's pretty good.
Any questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
You're off the hot seat.
For the moment.
Let me take this over. All right. Couple of brief comments. The first of which is that the project meets all of the criteria under the Land Development Code. So there's really not much for me to talk about, but I'm a lawyer, I'm going to talk anyway. So let me talk about the 3 staff comments. The first staff comment dealt with aesthetics. Staff says that the project is, I quote, modern architecture which does not reflect the Mediterranean theme the city and residents have shown to desire. I think the evidence before y'all here tonight is that the residents don't necessarily desire a Mediterranean theme. 49% think otherwise. Moreover, the developer has adjusted the project to try to mix the product to accommodate the city's concerns. Now, the lawyer in me can't resist talking about the law applicable to legislating aesthetics. Traditionally, courts held, as did one particular one back in 1925, that, and I'm going to quote here, sorry about that, aesthetic judgments and standards are a matter of individual taste, which run the gamut. Therefore, they are too subjective to be applied in any way that is not arbitrary and capricious, a violation of the Due Process Clause of the 14th Amendment. And courts for decades did not allow the government to legislate aesthetics. Back in 1954, the United States Supreme Court appeared to embrace a, quote, beauty for beauty's sake alone rationale for the exercise of eminent domain. And after that 1954 Supreme Court case, there was a shift in the law. And the courts throughout the country have changed their position. And now they're on the other side of the coin. The position now is that land use regulation can be justified on aesthetics, but only if there are adequate standards and those standards are applied appropriately. And therein lies the rub for you gentlemen tonight. In the city of Ocoee, there are no standards, adequate or otherwise, that may be appropriately applied to govern aesthetics of projects like this one. I'm sure the city assistant city attorney will correct me if I'm mistaken on this. The city of Ocoee has not made a legislative determination to use its police powers to promote any particular aesthetic theme. The city, in addition, hasn't legislated any standards for gentlemen like you to apply to determine whether a project meets the legislative theme that's in the public interest. And without any standards to appropriately apply, this commission simply cannot reject an application based on aesthetics without, frankly, violating the applicant's constitutional rights. Long story short, aesthetics shouldn't be a consideration for you gentlemen tonight. The second step of the staff's comments dealt with traffic. I'm not going near that with a 10-foot pole. All you need to know is that the project does not warrant additional signalization. The third comment dealt with the effect of sound from the turnpike. I believe it's referred to as the question dealt with the sound attenuation wall. And what I will suggest to you is the developer has already dealt with the noise concern. We can address it more specifically, and if I could see that far, I would tell you that the site plan now includes an 8-foot wall, a 10-foot landscape buffer, and ponds with fountains to address the concerns about noise from the turnpike.
Does that buffer include a berm or anything? The landscape buffer?
Mr. Braddock, do you think you could answer that question?
We haven't decided on the berm basis.
Okay.
We'll have to deal with the topography. But then again, on top of it, you've also got the current trees that are within the turnpike right of way too. So
Correct.
you'll
Yeah.
have a very significant buffer of trees.
Inasmuch as this project meets all of the criteria of the Land Development Code, we would respectfully ask you gentlemen to approve it this evening. Do y'all have any other questions for us?
No, I don't think so. I don't have one.
Thank you very much for your time. I know it's late and y'all have other things to do. We do appreciate you spending the time with us this evening.
I just want to know, which one of you guys mentioned court and laws and stuff? Anybody? I don't want to go there. But we do have tradition, it has some value. And we also have overlay districts with distinct architectural requirements. So we do have something that should be of something value. In my own personal instance, I'm a tree-hugging traditionalist, and I don't care much for the modern design, but I would say in this venue, based on my experience with the X generation, they just love this stuff. And it's far enough away from the city that I wouldn't have a problem with it, actually, if you went 100% modern. So,
great. Well, I'm glad.
So I'm not sure how the rest of the board might feel on that, but I don't think we're going to make any determination on that. That's for you to sort out with the staff and with the commission. Now, those guys and girl are tough, so.
Gentlemen, thank you.
All right, with that, I'd like to mention that we have, in addition to the AX 081764 and the rezoning 170805, so if there's anybody who'd like to speak in the opening the public hearing, your comments will be applicable to both of those items. So does anybody come forward and speak on this issue?
Could questions be answered?
If you can come up to the public and public forum and give us your name and address, fill out a form, you're more than welcome. Oh, we know who you are.
David Andre. I live at 498 Highbrook Boulevard in Brookstone subdivision, which is directly across from where the entrance will be. I don't know if this is the correct forum or the board can answer or if anyone can. I had 4 quick questions. They mentioned the townhomes would start at about $350,000. Are there any other townhomes in Ocoee that start at that range?
That I know of.
Second would be, is there anything in the future that could change those townhomes into becoming apartments?
Good question.
Third, with the retail space, if we keep in mind Park Place, I think it is across the street, still has a lot that is wide open for retail space. When those apartments were built, that was what was going to happen there. There's nothing that has happened there. And number 4, that big, I think it was in the very first thing that you had shown, they're all pine trees that go on to Tommen Road at the corner of Tommen and McGuire. What does that future hold, correct, right where he's at? What does the future hold for that right there if we're building townhomes and retail space right in there? That's all I have. I don't expect answers to all of it, but things to think about.
I'm sure Mr. Rumor can answer those questions for you.
With regards to this parcel has a C3 commercial zoning, so it could come in as any type of office, retail, restaurant. In the future, it could be special exception uses there, or daycare, churches, schools, but it is commercial. It is in the city. It's straight zone commercial. With regards to value of townhome, I do not have any evidence prepared to be able to answer that question on comparable sales of townhomes.
I don't know of any of that in that range, so.
Across the street and probably the ones by Weston Bay, but I don't know what they're selling for.
And is there anything coming into that Park Place across the street, the area, the commercial area that?
No.
No, that's a no. Okay.
There's an approved 18,000+ square foot retail building, what they're looking at, but they haven't broke ground, or I've heard they don't have any good leases yet, so.
I can answer some of those questions if that's okay.
If you come up to the podium, please.
I guess I'll start with, this is Ray Veloso, a developer from Development Group in Yellow Rock Construction.
Your name again?
Ray Veloso.
Okay.
Address is 6965 Piazza Grande, Suite 406, Orlando, Florida 32835. I guess I'll start answering the first question. Is being a single fee townhome unit, this cannot be turned into an apartment, which is, of course, it's a valid concern. So a townhome cannot be reverted to an apartment. So that's an easy question to answer. In regards to the commercial space, we have been working with the city for a little bit over 16 months now. It's going to be on our development agreement once this project is approved to develop the entire subdivision infrastructure, starting from the commercial, meaning that the school will be built, the STEM school will be built immediately, and one of the buildings, either building number 2, which is the building to the west, next a little bit, the one further down to the west there, or it will be the 2-story building. We haven't made a decision, but one of those 2 buildings will be immediately built, which is a valid concern, because I've heard that the other developer hasn't really move with the commercial space. In our case, a little bit different. We cater to the high-tech, energy-efficient clientele that is looking for compact spaces. They're not necessarily small, but they're around 1,000 to 1,200 square feet spaces. So they wouldn't cost a whole lot of money to small business, meaning they wouldn't be on the $4,000 or $5,000. It would be around $1,800 to $2,500 per month. We have noticed that there is a tremendous amount of demand because there's nobody else in the area serving this market. We have a building about 15 minutes away from this location on Hiawassee in Metro West in front of the golf course. 80,000 square foot building, which we have right now 100% capacity, has been like this for the last 2 years. And the units, they reflect what we are proposing to build in here. We can't just, if we had another 80,000 square foot building there, we would fill it up. So the commercial is where we're gonna start. We're gonna build the entire infrastructure of the residential as well, and probably start with the initial 40 townhome units. Those townhome units, they are not your typical townhome units. There are some renderings on our package that can be offered to you guys, but all of those townhomes, they have a 450 square feet backyard. A lot of townhomes, they're just, homes which has, your St. Augustine grass on the back, there's no space for pool or summer kitchen. That's not the case at all. Those townhomes, they have a summer kitchen, they have a space for pool. They are designed where they are meeting this new demand for low cost of living with a lot of quality at the same time, meaning you don't need to have to purchase $1 million home to have the $1 million lifestyle. It's not going to be cheap, but it's not also, it's not for someone that wants just to live in a townhome and just save money, but it's in the middle where people don't want to spend $600,000 or $1 million. They're going to have all the amenities, the bells and whistles where you see on the upper end of the properties. So that's where this fits. It will cater to the clientele, which right now is not service. There's not such a product in here. There's a lot of those in Lake Nona selling much more expensive than those are, upwards to $400,000. So we're trying to bring to Ocoee, where we see this particular location is 20 minutes away from Amway Arena, from the Orlando Soccer City, from Dr. Phillips, from what Ocoee is becoming. We feel that this is an urban area which people want to be living at, so it's close enough to the main areas in Orlando. So we see this as a great location. We are honored to be here with you guys and to be able to propose a project like this.
Have you refined your commercial space to have one of all the services that we've needed? Cleaners, coffee, glasses, and professional services? Is that kind of how you're gearing your commercial system?
The way
So actually, somebody doesn't even have to leave that unit during the day. They can pretty much take care of all the things they need to do.
Right. This building that we have in Metro West, Hiawassee, is a great example of that. There's a coffee shop in there that serves, this 60 units that we have on this 80,000 square foot. There is a preschool of about 7,000 square feet on the building. People can drop off their kids and go to work because around there is some residential on Hiawassee. But most of the businesses, there's a restaurant, there's an Argentinian restaurant, Mom and Pop, that is doing very well. It's been there for the last 3 years, about 2,000 square feet. So there's not a lot of your conventional retail, that is not going to be a shopping center. This is a destination place that there's going to be a lot of professional services, tenants and owners. And what are they? I'll give an example of what's happening right now in Metro West. We have 6 attorneys, we have 5 accountants, we have interior designers, we have party planners, we have a furniture showroom. We have builders, we have engineers, we have architects on the building. We have 3-day spas, small day spas, eyebrows, other that does women's type of services. So it's all service related. We don't have a boutique store that really sells. Not that we won't have them, but this is not the type of business that the people will be driving by. Like for instance the Winter Park Village, which is a true retail space. We call it more professional service, a specialty retail office situation. So it services that market. But it does have a little bit of that component of a coffee shop and a school and a little mom and pop, which the residential owners will be able to walk through and be able to access all of those. Yes.
All right, thanks. Any other questions? You guys? Sirs? Okay.
All right,
The public hearing is still open, so if there's anyone like to address, please step up here. Oh, if you haven't filled out one of these forms, please do that when you get a chance, before you leave. By the way, your comments will be recorded for both part of the projects here, both items on the list. So. Name, address, affiliation.
My name is Marcus Tillman with Emmett Combs and Company Realty, 5401 South Curtin Road, Suite 310.
What was your name again, please?
Marcus Tillman.
Okay.
So my question is, what builder will you guys be using for these townhomes?
What builder?
Yes, sir.
We self-perform. We have built over 1.7 million square feet in Central Florida. Yeah. Yellow Rock Construction.
Okay. Well, just like the gentleman back there.
Excuse me, you need to speak into a mic.
Like the gentleman back there in the back, the 350,000 to Ocoee concerns me because there are no townhomes being sold right now for that much. So hopefully it works out for you though. But. All right, so what's the name?
Yellow Rock Construction.
Please keep your discussion to the microphone so we can get it recorded. Thanks.
That was not for you, that was for Ray. They can't pick up what you said.
Yeah, if you come back and repeat that, we appreciate it. Your answer.
I believe some of the questions the gentleman Marcus has posed is who is going to be the builder. The builder will be Yellow Rock Construction, so that was the answer. We have built over 1.7 million square feet in Central Florida since 2002. And I think that was the only question he asked, right? Yes.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else like to address the commission here? If not, I'll close the public hearing. We'll move on to the next part of this. We are voting twice, once for annexation and once for rezoning. And of course, we are talking about the PUD land use plan of this project.
You have to approve the land use plan as well.
We're voting on that separately?
Yes, you will vote on
okay.
annexation, and then you will
Right.
vote on the rezoning to the PD, and then you will approve the PUD land use
Oh,
plan.
okay. All right. Thanks for clarifying.
Sure.
All right, so I guess I needed a motion on the annexation of this project AX081764. Anyone willing to come forward
Mr.
with
Chairman, I move that the
Jim? Okay.
Planning and Zoning Commission, acting as the official board for the city of Ocoee, subject Inspiration PUD annexation project AX-08-17.
Second.
Do I hear a second?
Yes, I second.
Okay, we got a second over here. Thank you. Have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All right, call the question. All those in favor of annexing the project under AX081764, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Hearing none, we'll move on to the next part of it. Okay, I'm looking for a motion for the rezoning of this project. RZ170805.
I'll offer that as a motion.
Thank you, sir. Looking for a second?
I'll second
I
it.
see.
Got a second over here? Okay. Any more?
Did you go second?
Who seconded?
Mr.
Mr. Frommer.
Power. All set? Okay. I got a motion and a second for the annexation, or for the rezoning. Any more discussion? Okay, hearing none, we'll call the question. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Hearing none. Okay, we'll move on to the PUD land use plan. Any further information you want to give us on that? Okay. Okay, being that, we need a motion to accept that. Anyone want to come forward with one, please?
I'll recommend approval of that.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we get a second?
Second.
Second, and Jim over here. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All those in favor of the PUD, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Hearing none. We'll move on to the next issue. I think that was it for that one, right? Thank you for your cooperation with the staff. We really do appreciate it. Looking forward to seeing what the city commission does.
Thank you, Jeff.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to
Yes, sir.
introduce, coming up will be Planner 1, Dwayne Jones, covering the next two projects.
Oh, okay.
He's been
Great.
a planner with the city for a number of years, probably going on 6. He works with our building department doing primarily residential zoning. And then I would like to also introduce Peter Kosicki in the pink shirt. Peter is our new urban designer. Peter replaces
Peter.
Mr. Sills and McKee. You're the only ones that know Antonio, who was a principal
Yeah.
planner that left. But Peter is an urban designer with our new overlays that we have adopted with the CRA, the 429 and the downtown. We needed somebody with some architecture experience, landscape architecture and regular architecture that could help us promote, design, facilitate that type of review and that type of site plan. So you'll be seeing Peter Kosicki here probably in the, hopefully, beginning of the year. We'll get some urban development that you guys will see, and he'll be a part of that. But I introduce Dwayne to you right now.
Okay. How you doing, Dwayne?
Good evening.
Good to see you.
How's everyone
How you
doing
doing?
today?
Okay.
For the record, my name is Dwayne Jones, Planner 1 for the City of Ocoee.
And you'll be talking to us about the GMMG LLC?
I'll be talking about the GMMG LLC annexation and rezoning, as well as Sullivan's annexation and rezoning.
So
I'll go
we're
ahead and-
voting on this annexation and then rezoning?
Right.
Okay.
I'll go ahead and start with the Sullivan's annexation and rezoning. Look at the location map. This property is located on the northwest side of Adair Street, right across the street from Marlene Drive. This property is seeking annexation to obtain water service. The water connection will be available at the front of the property. This property is .50 acres with an existing single-family home. If I can go to the aerial, I'm not sure how to go back.
Oh, it does have an existing building.
Look at the aerial view, you'll see that the surrounding properties are currently in unincorporated Orange County. However, the property directly across from it, which is right here, where I put the cursor, this is in Ocoee. So that allows for annexation eligibility. The city's requested zoning would be R1 zoning, and this property already meets those standards for R1 zoning, which is
And R1 is a single-family residence?
single-family residence, which is 25 feet in the front, 7.5 on the sides, and 25 in the rear. And the future land use is currently low-density residential, which complies with an R1 zoning. And with annexation approval, the city will receive the full benefits of water, trash, fire, and police assistance. And that's it.
Okay. So all the services are there?
Yes.
Okay.
Are there any other questions?
I don't have any. Any questions by the members of the board?
Snap up the first one, that's good. Nothing.
Oh, okay. That's it. There's existing residents on the property.
Yes.
Is the property owner going to need to do anything to bring it in conformance with the city?
No, it currently meets those standards already. Setbacks are pretty standard, which is, like I said, 25 in the front, 7.5 on the sides, 25 in the rear. The minimum lot size has to be at least 7,000, and she's currently at 21,742.
Yeah, this is for R1, so.
Right.
Okay. All right, so I guess thank you for that. I guess we're looking for a motion for the annexation of that.
Oh, you need to open a public
Oh,
hearing.
I'm sorry. There's nobody here.
I know, but you need
Okay,
to open a public hearing.
We'll open the public hearing. I don't see anybody rushing to the podium, so we'll close the public hearing. Thank you for reminding me of that.
And we'll do two motions again, one for the annexation and the second for the rezoning.
Yes, okay. So now that the public hearing is closed, we can ask for that motion
Yes, now you
for the
can.
annexation.
Mr. Chairman, I
Yes,
move
Jim.
that the Planning and Zoning Commission, acting as a local planning agency, recommend annexation, subject GMMG LLC, 1737 North Lakewood Avenue, Ocoee. Project.
Excuse me.
We're
This
on-
is the
We're on
Sullins.
Sullins, 1928 Adair. We skipped
still on-
forward to the next tab.
Right, I apologize.
They're-
yeah.
they're-
This
they're
is
in-
Sullins property.
I
We
missed
haven't,
that one.
he's taking this out
We're
of
on-
the
we're on the
sequence. that we have in the
Go
agenda.
back,
Rezoning.
go back a couple of slides.
GMMG, I got
Yeah, we're on Sullins. We're just back, yeah, we went forward one tab. We're going to come
Oh,
back
okay.
to Sullins,
Oh, we're on the
GMMG.
Sullins annexation. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Yeah,
There you go.
Yes, sir. The form, is there extra form up there for? We appreciate you doing that, sir. Okay. I'm
Yeah, so
sorry.
I apologize. This is the Sullins property I was just talking about, not GMMG LLC.
All right, we'll just. Okay. No problem. We can go with that. So we're at Sullins at 1920 Adair Street.
Right.
Okay. We'll back up a little bit. Okay, Jim, I guess we're ready for your motion if this is the one you want to, if you want to do this one. Oh, you know that, okay. Find it, Jim?
Pardon?
Did you find it? You can do the
Yeah,
motion?
the Sullins, yes, I have,
Okay.
yeah.
We're looking for a motion for the Sullins property?
We need to open the public hearing on that?
It's been opened
did
and
that.
closed.
We did that,
We did it,
okay.
yeah.
All right. I move that the Planning and Zoning Commission, acting as the local planning agency, recommend approval for subject Sullins, 1928 Adair Street, Ocoee. Annexation, project number AX08-07-62.
I got 1-7.
That's 1-7.
I think I got 1-7.
Huh?
Can you check that? I think I got 1-7, AX081762.
08-0, 17, not 0, -62.
Yeah, is that okay?
That's the annexation.
Okay, I think we're in agreement now. Sorry about that. Okay, need a second?
I second the motion.
Okay, we got, I think he got,
Dr. Richmond.
I think he got it first.
You got it.
Going by the sound here. Okay, we have a second and a motion, or excuse me, a motion and a second. And then just discussion. Same things apply to the other one, that we don't need any services with from the city on this?
No.
Okay. All right. With that, I'll ask the question. All those in favor say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? All right. That takes care of the annexation. Now we need to do the rezoning for the Sullins property. Anything in addition to the rezoning on that? What was the rezoning, R1?
So the
Correct.
zoning will be R1.
Okay,
And the future land use is low-density residential, so it complies with that.
okay. All right, need a rezoning
Okay, I'll make a motion that the Planning and Zoning Commission recommend approval of the rezoning of the Audrey Simmons property at 1928 Adair Street in Ocoee, project number RZ170803.
All right, good. I need a second. Who's going to give me a second?
I'll make a second.
Okay. All right, we got a motion and a second. Any additional conversation? Hearing none? We'll move to the question. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Hello? Aye. Anyone opposed? Hearing none, we'll move on to the next one, which is the, actually we're going,
Right, the next
We're
one
going
is
forward.
GMG LLC annexation and rezoning. And this property is located at 1737 North Lakewood Avenue. It's on the right-hand side of Lakewood, east side of it, not too far from the intersection of Fuller's Cross and Lakewood Avenue. This property is also seeking annexation to obtain water service as well, and I believe the water connection will be located at the front of the property too. The property surrounding it, those are on unincorporated Orange County. However, the property across the street is where Innovation Montessori School would be located, and they happen to be annexed in the city already. So that's why they're eligible for annexation. This property, I also wanted to mention that they also plan on doing a lot split, a 3-parcel lot split on this property in the future, which will allow for 3 additional homes that will go along Lakewood. So the existing home that's there now will be demoed in the future.
what would be the minimum size lot they can, what's the minimum size lot they could actually
Go back to the zoning.
go down to?
The zoning will be R1. The city's requesting a R1 rezoning. So like I said before, the R1 rezoning has to be at least 7,000 square feet
Yeah.
for the lot size. So they will meet the lot size. Right now, I believe the home is 208 feet wide by 135 feet long. So if they split it in 3s, they won't meet the 70-foot lot width requirement for R1 zoning. I believe it'll be 69.3, so they're 7 inches off. But I'm not sure, we haven't spoke of, about getting a variance or not for that or not.
Okay.
But they will meet everything else, so they'll meet the living area, the setbacks, and the
But
lot.
if they don't do the lot split, they're meeting the requirements right now for the
They do,
R1, so.
if they don't do the lot split, the property as it is now still complies with the R1 zoning.
I'm sorry, the property as it is now, what?
If they don't do the lot split, then the property that as it exists right now with the house there, it still meets the setbacks and requirements for R1 zoning, which is what the city's requesting. Because
So
currently,
it's-
I believe it's agriculture, A1.
So at this point, it meets our annexation requirements, and
All right,
we can move forward with that.
right.
Okay. Any other questions? If not, I'll look for a motion to annex this property to the city.
Are you going to open the public hearing?
Oh, I'm sorry, public hearing again. I guess you're a public.
Everything's a
Anything you
public
want?
hearing.
Sure to fill out a form. Yeah, the public hearing is open.
Everything's a public hearing.
I'm not hearing any public, so we'll close the public hearing.
Does the,
Now we'll go to, oh, I'm sorry.
does the
Questions?
prospect of a lot split into 3 lots that we have been discussing as a possible future action by the owner, does our approval of the annexation and the rezoning lock that into place as a definite future for that, or is that just a possibility?
I think
That's
it's-
just a possibility.
It's just a possibility.
The annexation and rezoning is just for that.
Is that something that
So
the
the lot
staff would
split
have to work
be a
with
whole
at some
separate
future date? It
public
doesn't
hearing.
affect this,
They have to do an
this process
application.
at the moment.
Very
Okay.
good. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dwayne. Yeah, it looks like it doesn't affect us at the moment. Based on the information and evidence in front of us,
Thank you.
we make our choices. Anything else on that, Dwayne, or is that?
No, that's it.
Okay. Okay, I'm looking for a motion now that the public hearing is closed. Anyone?
I think it's your turn.
I don't have the packet.
Oh, who doesn't have it?
There's the project. The first one we're doing is the annexation.
Yeah, we got two parts. Looking for annexation motion first.
All right, I'll make a motion to approve the annexation of project number AX 081763 for approval.
Okay, I got a motion. Looking for a second.
I second the motion.
Mr. Richmond, seconded. Okay, any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All those in favor of the annexation of this property, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say no. Hearing none, we'll approve that part. All right, now we're looking for the rezoning. And the public hearing applies to this as well as the other one, so. So we'll move on. Looking for, you
I'd
gonna do
like
that
to
one
make a
too?
motion for approval of rezoning of project RZ 170804.
Okay, need a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, Mr. Wunderlich is seconding that.
Yeah, I didn't get that.
Any discussion? Hearing none, call the question. All those in favor of rezoning for that property, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say no. Hearing none, we're all good. Thank you, sirs. Thank you, Dwayne. Appreciate your help there. We'll try not to confuse you next time. Okay, now, the marijuana ordinance.
Okay, yes, so we have a proposed amendment to the Land Development Code. We're trying to tackle the issue that's statewide, the medical marijuana treatment center dispensing facilities. So, back in November, the voters voted on a number of items. One of them is they made cannabis a approved treatment metal for treating medical conditions. And the city adopted an ordinance right away prohibiting those. They still needed to come up with rulemaking and items like that. And so in the
state legislature.
State legislature came up in June of 2017, Senate Bill 8A, which established regulatory process for medical cannabis dispensaries. And what the legislature adopted is this. They said, local governments, you can either prohibit them or you can let them in. And if you let them in, the only regulation you can put on them is 500-foot distance to a school. You have to treat them as pharmacies. You can't limit them, you can't regulate them. So the legislature with that action took away home rule. We're not necessarily against a facility. It's just, you either have the option of
No control.
no control. You can either control it by prohibiting it, or you allow them in, there's no control. So you can do some land development code, signage, maybe, some setbacks you could change, but allowing them in the zoning designation that pharmacies, it takes the control out. So the city attorney has put together an ordinance which will, in our Article 5 uses in our land development code, it'll be listed as a prohibited use. Medical marijuana treatment center dispensing facilities, as described by Florida statute, will be a prohibited use. So when the people that are tracking us and call us and do public records requests to see where we're at, when we pass this resolution, they'll go to our land development code and say, oh, it's prohibited. Okay, next jurisdiction.
This is kind of a side question. Maybe you know why. So why isn't this, since they said it's a pharmacy, why isn't it your local CVS or Walgreens or as part of a controlled substance like they do with other stuff?
Well, it's very new. It's just catching on.
So why does the legislature just say, okay, you got to go to your CVS to get this?
We'll probably see the legislature pick this back up in a year or two.
Oh, okay. I mean, why reinvent the whole
They're
process?
starting to hear the pushback from local governments on home rule with issues such as medical marijuana and the cell tower issue.
Yeah, I see that's coming ahead
communication
again.
towers and right away. So, so that's where this is what many, there's jurisdictions like the city of Orlando, they passed an ordinance. There was a model ordinance going around, put together by attorneys, and by people in the industry and backed by some of the lobbyists for cities that had an ordinance that permitted them based on population. You're allowed one facility per 66,000 residents. Once you went over, your population went over 60, you could get another one. So under that, we were looking, and I had an ordinance put together where we would adopt that. We, maybe allow one, but you could condition it under that ordinance. And many jurisdictions adopted that model ordinance. They've since gone back, Sumter County, City of Orlando, and prohibited them. And they have one or two located in there. So, but that's not what the legislature left us with. It's either prohibit them or allow them. And that's it. So we're bringing forward a land development code to prohibit them.
Well, as I recall, the ballot was not written in such words, and in my mind, I think they're going contrary to what the people wanted. So, I mean, that's my personal opinion, but, so, I guess it's not a dead issue, though. Probably not, but I can understand from a city point of view, we want to control.
It's still a Schedule I drug in the federal regulations.
Right.
And so that's one reason they're regulated quite differently from your local CVS, because there's issues with the cash transaction as opposed to using the federal banking system. There are issues that come up with security because there's a lot of cash on the property.
Yes.
They offer continuing legal educations now on a regular basis on this issue to educate people on how you can use the federal banking system and how you can use different things in order to be able to have a successful medical marijuana treatment facility. But it's not your local CVS. It's completely different, differently regulated.
I know that's the problem is, well, why create another problem if you said CVS, you can do this, all the controls are in place, I would
It's still a
think.
Schedule I drug under the federal
Well, maybe that's the
code,
hiccup.
and it's just not enforced. It's been a decision by the
unfortunately.
Justice Department not to enforce the federal law, so that could change too.
Any other discussion from the,
I mean, my concerns is it cites 381986 and medical marijuana treatment center dispensing facility. So would this prevent like CVS from dispensing Marinol? Are they going to be a dispensing facility?
what's that, Marinol?
Marinol, it's a marijuana pill, basically.
Oh.
They put it into a pill for like cancer patients or
We have limited this ordinance, this prohibited use, to the language in the law that Mike's talking about. When they rewrote it, they said you can either treat it like a drugstore, this use, as defined in the law, or you can prohibit it. So we're prohibiting this use. Now, if different regulations come down through the state system regarding what a conventional drugstore can or can't, OxyContin's a good example.
Yeah.
You know, they're pushing back on dispensing OxyContin now. So, I mean, there are a lot of different things that happen through the Department of Health and regulate that industry. And this is not going to, this is not related to that. Yeah, this is just saying, in the law, y'all define them this way, and we're saying we're not going to allow them, based on the way your law is written. Like Mike said, when they revisit it next year or the year after, which they probably will, we might come in and change this or amend it. But for now, this is what we have, so this is what we're living with.
I envision bringing two ordinances to this commission, one prohibiting and one under the model ordinance saying, one per 66,000. We'll regulate it by a special exception.
Yeah, I was going to
and
say,
get
that
your-
would probably be
get
where we'd
your
see it.
collective
Like we
take
do
and then let,
gas
yes.
stations and tire places.
Of note, when they did their legislative analysis on this bill in the legislative session, they specifically said that they did not want people to regulate the number of facilities.
Yes.
In fact, that's why they adopted the specific language they said, which is either treat them like a drugstore or prohibit them straight out. Because they completely were pushing back on that analysis, which has economic basis and all kinds of basis as to the health of your community and the healthy economy for this provider of this,
Right.
of this medicine. So, I mean, there were a lot of factors that went into the study Mike's talking about, and they really did push back on that. That's how I read the analysis.
Just
Yeah, it was
remember
very
the one
interesting.
per 66,000 people. So you get one, and then at 66,000, you can get a second one.
Yes.
It's not the first one happens after
Right.
you reach
One.
66.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
No, I was just saying when he says, Mirano, it's a medications they give for cancer patients that can't eat. It just pull out your marijuana for patients that cannot eat. It just gives you that burst. Oh, I need to eat. Immediately you take that pills.
Counselor, would this prohibition have any effect on existing pharmacies and hospitals and medical offices and what they can prescribe?
No,
Thank you.
this is specifically defined in the law, this particular use.
Thank you.
Okay. That was my concern with the new ALF being built in Florida, Health Central being right there, that would they dispense it and then are they gonna be banned? But I think you've
As
answered
I
that.
recall, and it's been a while since I've looked at this bill, but as I recall, hospitals aren't included in that definition. I think they're specifically excluded from the definition in the law.
They are, okay.
Yeah, as I recall, and that's just coming from memory from the post-session wrap-up.
Also, they can dispense it?
Well, I don't know. I don't know their regulations. I
It's-
just
in
know
other words,
that
it
there were
doesn't
certain
pertain-
things that were, this is a specific definition that describes a specific type of facility, and it was not including hospitals, as I recall.
Oh, okay.
Are we having a public hearing on this tonight?
Yes.
Yep.
This is public hearing.
Yes, we are.
I see a lot of green out there.
I was about ready to open that public hearing as soon as we're done here. Any more questions, or until we move on to the public hearing? All right, we'll move on to the public hearing. We'll open the public hearing on the marijuana ordinance. Anyone like to speak? Crickets. Okay, we'll close the public hearing. Bring it back to the commission. Okay, commission, what's your pleasure? And look for a motion at this point.
I'd like to make a motion for amendment of section 5-8 use regulations for the regulation prohibiting medical marijuana treatment center dispensing facilities in the city of Ocoee.
Second?
We got a second over here. So we got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Hearing no? Hearing none, we'll move on.
Okay,
Yeah,
the next
probably the
item
safest thing to do.
is, in addition, this is another amendment to the Land Development Code.
Yeah, this one I didn't understand.
Regarding permitted uses and overlay districts. This one's been kind of tricky. We have an overlay on Highway 50 for 3 specific target areas, which talk about building form and creating blocks. And that generally will knock out some uses coming in, like a self-storage facility. But we had properties along 50 vacant that we were receiving self-storage, automobile service like a Tire Kingdom, a discount, Dollar Tree, fast food restaurants. So we put a moratorium on those uses in our overlays, which was Highway 50 and on the 429, to just say, well, how do we, doing architectural requirements doesn't necessarily stop them from coming in. The parcels we have available for development and where we can really capture uses like a standalone restaurant or being proposed for fast food facilities, multiple fast food facilities, a dollar store. So the moratorium goes in effect, and I've been with a consultant looking at how can we regulate fast food drive-throughs, storage, self-storage facilities, automobile service stations, and discount dollar stores. And it's been really tough. We have already amended the code once for automobile repair, really tire changing, those quick lube and tire and those type of places. And we took them out of the C2 and made them just permitted in the C3. A lot of the Highway 50 corridor is C3 zoned, and then a lot of the others are C2 when you're commercial districts. So we're finding that the land in the prime places are expensive, and there's some less valued land that they can do these developments and get funding for, and which would be a fall along Highway 50 and the 429, and could be in our downtown. That is going to be an overlay as well. So really struggled with a way to try to limit them. So I've come up with a proposal to not address all of the items, not the discount dollar stores. That's really a tough one to really identify. You don't necessarily want to draw out prohibit a Walgreens or something, or maybe it's appropriate. It's just, so I'm coming before you with a way to address 3 items. Now, Orange County's zoning table has a long list. They pretty much use the standard industrial code zoning list. They list almost any use you can. And in that list, they also have, Dana, is it subsections, footnotes?
Yeah, they each have a corresponding note
That
to a
goes with
use.
it.
So the use will have, it's in, like Mike said, it's all SIC codes, and they list the use, and then they have a number, and then that number corresponds with the next subsection of the code to give you more of a descriptive of what that allows, what that use means, what that use allows. So we've pretty much modeled this on that.
Right.
On
We
that
have
model.
that, we've done, I think in bars and cocktail lounges, we put a footnote, a star, and then you go down to the notes and read. So that's kind of how I modeled this, because I'm not prohibiting, with this, I'm not prohibiting self-storage in Ocoee. This is really trying to limit in those areas we deem as very economically viable for job creation, mixed use. A storage facility employs 1 person during the day. Very low trips. No one wants to be located, I want to be located next to store quick. So in our attempt, and I have a consultant working on this, this is not my bias because of Ocoee, but one way we looked at it is let's allow them, but they're in a mixed use development and they're not the prominent use.
So that's the accessory?
Yes.
Use?
Where we kind of did this was with the storage facility on 50, the new one that has retail on the bottom and storage on top. Okay, it has a little bit of strip of retail. There's another site on 50 at Clark where we mentioned this, and they said, we'll do 20% office and the rest will be office retail units, the rest will be storage. So we found some legislation in other jurisdictions that says in C3, you can have a storage facility. First, we're changing the definition. I didn't like the mini warehouse. So what that's doing is we're going to strike under definitions, Article 2, the mini warehouse, and we'll put in a new definition called self-storage facility. So, and then in Article 8, we're looking at saying, okay, if you're in a special overlay district, which would be CRA target area, State Road 429, or in the downtown, then it's only permitted if it's an accessory use, shall be defined as no more than 35% of the building or parcel, that be used for self-storage. If mixed uses, it's separated on the site. It can't be visible from the roadways. It must be lined with office or retail. And then if it's on an arterial, it must be behind the building. So this is a way to kind of, you just can't have a self-storage facility take the whole parcel. That's going to drive a lot of the self-storage developers out. But if they have a project, if they have enough room and they want to add an element, it may be appropriate. So that's how.
Now this, on this
Yes.
Exhibit A, under 2, you say any self-storage facility with frontage on an arterial street must be located behind a retail business.
Yes.
Now, does this business have to be physically connected to this other building? I mean,
It does
two
not,
buildings?
no. It's just behind it.
Just behind it, okay.
But it can't be 35% of the development. So the retail, the
So
building
it's
has to
still-
be
still-
bigger, yes,
still
yes,
capped
or
at
the site,
35.
yes.
Okay.
Mhm. So, as we transition, per se, we have some parcels that will still develop under our suburban code, but we have a lot of new development we expect to come in on the suburban. We may see times where we react. I try not to do a knee-jerk reaction, but we may have to modify. we get in here and somebody may figure out a way to make it work how we don't want. And we can amend the land development code. So I don't take this lightly. This is just not an easy way because I still haven't figured out how to handle discount dollar stores if we want to.
Really?
Some of them are going out of business and combining, so you're not going to have as many. But we didn't want, on the site where the Sable Hotel was, to work with them to redevelop it and get a discount dollar store, a fast food restaurant, a tire changing facility. We capitulated to the fast food, and I let that go in, and then we did the moratorium after that. So we helped
Are we
kick
still
that.
looking for a Wendy's there? Is that where the Wendy's is supposed to be?
Oh, we're getting the Wendy's up at Fountains West. We got the
okay.
Wendy's on 50
that's
already.
where it is. Okay.
Yes.
I saw it on the list.
Yes.
I was wondering where it
Right.
was.
So that's how I'm looking to attempt to regulate self-storage. With regards to restaurant, I'm looking to take out drive-in restaurants, the Whataburger and Sonic. They're permitted. We haven't had any requests for those, but we don't have any sites conducive. That's,
Yeah.
you may feel differently. So we're going to make the drive-in restaurant prohibited. Well, you don't need them because you don't have the medical marijuana. So.
Sonics and those are kind of different. They're different animals.
Yes, they're automobile oriented.
Yeah.
And in our overlays, we're trying to be urban, mixed use, multimodal, bike and walk and healthy living. And the car is the least dominant. So, and those are car dominant. I mean, you drive up into there in order. So this is the overlay districts. They may be appropriate someplace else in Ocoee that's not an overlay. And there's places along Clark and Silver Star. And so, and then what we're looking, this is tough. This is new drive-through facilities, restaurants may not have access or be located directly on an arterial or collector road. So that'll stop them from wanting to be on the prime spot on the corner of McGuire or 50 or.
So we have those terms clearly defined in our LDC? What an arterial
That will be
is?
clearly defined, yes.
What an arterial,
Yes,
what a
and it lists
collector-
which roads are
Okay.
arterials, yes.
So we have that.
Good question.
Okay, we're covered. Because I
And
saw
then-
arterial on the other one too.
No drive-through shall be visible from any public right-of-way. Now, we have in the State Road 429 and in the overlay and in the CRA, we have ways to kind of prohibit the drive-through, but it's not solid. There's a way, you could still make it work, so.
How wide is the 429 overlay? How far is it?
Well, the overlay goes, it's those three character areas, so it's
Oh, okay.
it basically goes from this Ocoee Business Park all the way up to Damascus on Ocoee Apopka, and then on the west side, it goes up East Crown Point Road
Okay.
up to where the Baptist church is. And then there's the one when you're on the 429 at West Road, when you cross over the 429, the parcel's over on that side. So it's kind of east of the 429 and south of the 429.
Damascus is that turn where cars can't
That's the
seem to
turn
make
near
it.
the dirt road, yeah,
They're
I
in
know.
the fence all the time.
Yes. So, yes. And then lastly, dealing with the automotive repair, the tire changing. That's
there we go.
That's the tire kingdoms, and our code defines them as.
Well, they're under special,
They are automobile service stations, building premises where gasoline, oil, grease, batteries, tires, automobile accessories may be supplied and dispensed to retail where the additional following service. The additional following services really gets into how they mechanical work. It's not a garage, but it's these tire kingdoms is what we're trying
a
to
lot of
get
them they're doing mechanical stuff.
Yes,
So-
they do offer a lot of services. And,
Yeah.
and it'd be really tough to write, I could spend a lot of time. You could get
Yeah.
a lot of different, so what we're looking at is, we think this will work, is, if, again, automobile oriented, this is not an emphasis to have automobile shops in our overlays. They're appropriate in other places, so limited on the bays. You can have 3 bays, those can really hold 6 cars.
Yeah.
You could have 6 cars being worked on, don't have the bays face the street. When we had The apartment, Oasis Apartment, is sitting on one of the lots now in the racetrack gas station development. But we had a Tire Kingdom, they wanted 13 bays.
Yes.
And you would see it from 50. That's
Yeah.
just not what, in those areas, that's not the law that we adopted. We adopted an overlay for dense urban development, pedestrian, multimodal oriented, not car oriented.
We're not a good neighbor.
And we have a good number of these facilities in Ocoee along Highway 50 presently. So that's what this is about. It's amending the code in those areas to make it
Mr. Rumor, could we
tougher.
see the one on restaurants, please? Thank you. Thank you very much.
This may not be perfect. I think this will work. And, you know, I'm not
You'll
saying
find
I might
out.
not be back here in a year from now saying it didn't work out, but this is what, you know, yeah, this is
We
our
appreciate
attempt
the
to.
effort.
We're getting, what the banks are financing and what people can get funding for is adult daycare, kids daycare, and car daycare. So it's, you know, fast food restaurants. So it's not what we hope to get, but we have a good number already in the city. I can point to any developer to say you can buy these existing sites.
Maybe use that population threshold like the marijuana.
Right, yeah, that's true, yes.
66,000, and after that, they could do one more.
And
We're only at
Commissioner
40
Sills
some,
is a
right?
car guy, so I don't want to make him mad. So.
He's also a business owner, so I was curious,
Yes.
if you have any thoughts on this as far as he feels
Well,
restrictive
we
at
went
all?
through
or-
this when we changed the land development code a couple of years ago. That's when they're not allowed in C2 zone and move them. It can be licensed and permitted in C3.
Oh.
And pawn shops went out the same way. There's a lot of businesses went out when we did that. I think it was 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago.
Yeah, we did something. Would any of these be allowed under special exception, or?
Well, they're allowed in
I mean, under
zoning,
your-
but if they're in an overlay, then they've got to meet that special criteria.
Okay, all right,
So,
that's, I guess,
yes.
oh, this is just for the overlay? then?
Just for the overlays,
Oh,
not
okay.
citywide.
All right, so not citywide.
And I intend to bring back at some point pawn shops, check cashing, dollar stores. That one's tough to figure out, but I'm hoping to bring those.
Sprawl isn't pretty. so. Okay, I guess we're at that point. Any discussion?
It's public
on
hearing,
this?
so it's,
Oh, public hearing. Well, I was going to ask the board if they had any
Yeah.
questions before we go there. And that's it? Okay, we'll open the public hearing then. Hearing no public, we'll close the public hearing.
and since you kind of, it wasn't clear, if you have any thoughts before it goes to commission, feel free to email me and say,
okay.
have you thought about this? You know, if you think about it, say, hey, I don't like it, just, any feedback is appreciated. And
We do have to take action on this.
you do have to
right?
take action,
Okay.
yes. You're recommending
So we're looking
the
for a
changes as
motion to-
proposed, or if you want to add conditions, if you want to change it.
So according to staff, we're looking for a recommendation to propose this to the commission. So I'm looking for a motion to do that. Anyone? Mr. Richmond?
Yes, I make a motions to approve project,
It's just the land development code amendments.
land of development, code, what is it, code enforcement?
Code
No,
amendments.
just
Okay, code amendment.
Yeah.
Project, what's the project number?
There's not a project.
Okay.
There is none.
It's relating to permitted uses and overlay districts.
Related to permitted overlay district. Yeah.
These are all based in Article 5, right?
Yes, Article 5 is the list of permitted uses.
Okay, so that nails it.
And then there's some Article 2 definitions.
Right.
Need a second on that?
Yes, we do.
Okay, second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Any more questions? Staff? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say no. Hearing none, we thank you for your work on that. But this is a question I ask you, is there some way we can put in the LDC that when somebody tears down a very busy Perkins or hotel, that they can't just leave it vacant forever? Or takes down a whole bunch of trees on the corner of a certain busy intersection and just leave it vacant forever? I mean, is there any way we can regulate that, say, okay, you can do this, especially if there's existing buildings that are functioning, they're not derelict. I mean, there's got to be,
Yeah, no, I mean, because you get, then we wouldn't be able to tear down the Colony Plaza, so
okay, put
it's,
some sort of a time limit on it, like you do
well, that's
with
not,
the,
you know, land development code's looking
concurrence
at new
type thing?
development, not,
That's code enforcement.
yes, that's why you have the code enforcement. You know, with the Sable, we looked at incentivizing it by saying, okay, we can attribute some transportation credits for the hotel and the restaurant to a redevelopment of the site. If they're uses that are not beneficial, then perhaps those credits will not be available. And the fast food restaurant that went in was the catalyst to make everything work. We had approved a restaurant like that in 2 locations on 50, so we let that one go through and said that's, and trying to say that's enough. Maybe it's not appropriate. Let's see what we can get. And so if he's bringing another good user, he can get some impact fee credits. If not, they have to pay the impact fee. So there is some incentive, but that's not citywide and that's not a land development code.
all right, project status update.
Yes, we've got a lot of construction going on with the hospital, has 2 projects under construction.
What's with the Colonial, is that, or the Colony site?
The Colony site, I believe, is, we have a approved small-scale site plan that will trigger the attorney work with undoing all the air rights, all of that is done. So what has morphed is from just the little parcel where the gas island was raised, from a little development there, the 2 property owners have now developed a partnership for the rest of the property, and we're working with them to kind of take care of the rest of the property at once.
Will we see that?
It's a reputable developer, and also they're willing to clean the whole site, make it look good. We have to deal with the liens and the interest on the liens. So that is being worked on daily. So I'm hoping we will not bring that settlement agreement to the Planning and Zoning Commission. It would go to the CRA board and then to the City Commission. So I'm hoping we can have a settlement brought forward before the end of this year.
Okay. All right, anything else?
We had a pre-construction meeting today for Wendy's at Fountains West,
Okay,
and
so
we have
that's
one
what-
next week for the Taco Bell, which is going to be next to it.
Okay, I guess. the
But
market-
those are out parcels, and, you know, really my overlay is for this raw land that they're coming in and tying it up for a fast food. If you have a development and you have a little art parcel and that's kind of planned in, that's different than tying up good developable land, and that being the best use being proposed, so.
What about the 4 local tacos? What's the update on that?
I'm sorry, which one?
The 4 local tacos?
Okay, 4 Locos, they ran into an issue, their proposed driveway on Silver Star. The Department of Transportation brought back comments saying they thought it was unsafe. That project and another project of Ocoee Village, if you can recall, the entrance was in the middle of the property and there was a nice, well, DOT had an issue with their driveway location. And so I went to and made a visit to DOT yesterday morning and discussed the comments, the background, how things are changing. The problem with the initial plan for 4 Locos was there's like 9 parking spaces, but there's not enough room to really turn around, and their fear was really people backing out onto the road and the distance to the intersection of Bluford. I don't think we're going to have enough time. 4 Locos is ready to move forward. They have the plan, the building designed. So I think they're just going to go ahead and modify and come off of Cumberland. I can prove to DOT that the road's going to change. It's a state road, but it really acts in that section from Clark to 429, acts more like a local road. And with our downtown master plan, which includes Silver Star will be realigned. It'll either be a 2-lane divided complete streets or a 4-lane divided complete streets. But the complete streets is to take into mind pedestrians, bicyclists, that non-vehicular traffic. And for the vehicular traffic, it's to let them know they need to slow down, that there's other people on the road. With that in mind, that cars may not be going 45 in front of there. There may be a roundabout. If they're coming out of the roundabout, they will not be reaching the speeds. But we won't know all that for several months. So I don't know if VMGs, so they're going to redo their site plan where they have access, and they're wanting to move forward.
And the microgrid, what's happening over
There,
there?
if you go by, they're working on the inside. I
So
check
they're
out their
working,
Facebook
yeah.
page and see the updates.
Okay.
I see they've
Oh,
got a
okay.
whole, I haven't been inside in a while. I don't know if Mr. Sills has looked at it, but the brewery's still doing interior. They got hung up, you know, you've got to provide a plan of what's there so you can say how you're going to modify it. So they had to provide a plan of what was there, and that was getting an architect to draw that. And then they had to provide a plan. And this is they had their brewery mechanism, the brewery vats constructed. You know, it's developed by a craftsman. It's not developed by Sears and Roebuck, so you don't have the instruction manual, so you got to
Oh.
figure out, okay, this putting off, you need this much butane, you need this much air coming out. There's not a manual that tells, you've got to kind of work through it, so. But they are hoping to open, they've got their federal license, so as soon as they can finish the interior remodel, they'll be ready to go.
They're working, they're ready to
They're
go.
working, yes.
Oh, okay. Any other questions of staff?
And maybe after one of these meetings, we can go down there one night.
Maybe we can do that.
After they
Look forward
open.
to that, yeah. Try to finish earlier next time.
Yes. We'll do a light agenda.
Are you in overtime? Oh, okay.
I said it's past my bedtime tonight.
Forgot about it. All right. Anything else of the staff?
That's it.
Otherwise, I look for a
Make a
motion
motion
to
to
adjourn.
adjourn.
There we go. You're taking over from Milt, huh?
Yeah, take over.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We're done. Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, Dana.